Yep.
Alexis, can you hear us?
I can hear it. Thank you.
I just called the meeting to order. We'll jump right into our one and only item for tonight, 467 Tungus Hill Road /80 Soundview Avenue, zoning compliance application of Jeffrey Vangeli, Tungus Hill Road LLC for a 46-unit residential development pursuant to section 830G of the Connecticut General Statute, Neighborhood Design Business District and Residential Zone. Attorney Hollister, good morning, good evening, excuse me.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Noonan, commission members, town staff, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Attorney Tim Hollister. My law firm is Hinckley, Allen and Snyder in the Hartford office, and I'm here representing the applicant, Tungus Hill Road LLC. The presenters tonight who are present are civil engineer is Avon Bauer, Citizen Engineering in Fairfield. Traffic will be addressed by Greg Del Rio and Steve Cipolla from Hardesty and Hanover in New Haven. And our architects are Phil Cerrone and Will Capel from Cerrone Architects here in Fairfield. To my right is my colleague, Attorney Andrew Moran. Thank you again, especially to Mr. Wendt and town staff for their logistical help. A note for the record that the notices were properly published in the month of November, and then the abutter mailing was sent out on November 21st, as evidenced by those present here. The application is dated October 23rd, and at this point it consists of the narrative application package, which I assume you all received. The 830G applications, we do what's called an affordable housing needs memo, which is a compilation of materials that we've put together over the years that attempts to address in one place affordable housing need within the town of Fairfield, within the region, and within the state of Connecticut, and in some instances, national trends. We have the civil and architectural plans, original plan set, and then a couple of minor items that have changed. And then tonight we have put in front of you, in front of each commission member, and I believe an electronic copy was also available to Commissioner Harrison, supplemental materials, which consist of a memo responding to Lieutenant Edmondson of the fire department, his fire marshal comments from November 14th, copy of the slides, hard copy of the slides that we're going to be using in our presentation tonight, two architectural renderings prepared by Mr. Cerrone's firm, some street level photos of the neighborhood that were taken by Mr. Cerrone's office, and then finally an excerpt from the CV of Hardesty and Hanover, our traffic engineers. So Jim, if we could go to slide 1, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
What was shared electronically to me? I just want to make sure I have it in my inbox.
It wasn't sent to the inbox. It's posted on the web link.
Okay, thank you.
What, the PowerPoint?
Yes, please. So we have a presentation tonight that I believe will be less than an hour. We can certainly take pressing questions as we go, but it might work well if we hold our questions until we go through the initial presentation. So Mr. Wendt is kind enough to pull up the PowerPoint. Cover slide. The existing condition, and maybe you, at this point you could go to slide 2.
Excuse me.
You could go to slide 2 there, Jim. You run it from the beginning. There we go. So the parcels, there are 2 parcels that are outlined in red there in the center of this slide. 467 Tungus Hill Road, 0.4 acres, and 80 Soundview, which would be at the bottom of the red.
It's very hard to hear your voice.
Just grab that.
Thank you, thank you.
Grab that mic right there. Seth.
Yeah, it's, there's a mic right there.
Want me to clip it on?
Hold it or.
Okay, is that better?
Thank you, yes.
Okay. All right, two parcels within the red rectangles there on the top side, which would be the north, 467 Tungus Hill Road, 0.4 acres, 80 Sound View on the south side, the lower side, 0.17 acres, total property 0.57 acres. As you can see, it's really a mixed use street, a number of commercial uses, bus stops, restaurants, grocery store, other commercial uses. The existing buildings, 467 Tungus Hill Road, is a 3-story building with 3 residential units and on-site parking and a detached garage, on-site, yes, 3-story building with 3 residential units and on-site parking and a detached garage constructed in 2001. 80 Soundview Avenue is a single-family home built in 1960. I'm informed that, just as a point of interest, there is a building at 66 Soundview, which I believe would be to the right of the slide in front of you, that was just recently demolished. As mentioned in the notice, this is an 830G site plan approval application. I know this commission has had 830G applications where there was a proposed regulation change. We have decided to forego this because it's one building, relatively small development as 830Gs go. But I think you know the basic standard that 830G provides that if a proposed residential development will preserve 30% of the proposed units for 40 years for households earning 80% and 60% of the statewide median income, then the commission to deny the application must receive at the public hearing evidence of a substantial public health or safety concern that clearly outweighs the additional need for lower cost units in the town and the region. And the health and safety concern cannot be addressed by what are called reasonable changes to the site plan. And reasonable changes, I note, that's an affirmative obligation of the commission, the staff, and peer reviewers. As we'll get to, we've had reviews by pretty much all of your town staff, and to our knowledge, no substantial concerns have been expressed. Another thing to keep in mind is that concerns, should they arise, should in the first instance be addressed by approval conditions if that is possible. Jim, if you could go to the next slide, please. So this is the street level view. So 467 is on the right of this slide, sort of partially blocked by that sign, but that the Belisara restaurant, and 447 in the middle. And if you would go to the next slide, Jim, please. And that is a picture of 80 Soundview Avenue, which is the single family home. The process to date is there are no wetlands on the site, confirmed by the Wetlands Commission staff, no permit required. The applicant has been to the Fairfield Water Pollution Control Authority, where the sewer has been approved, originally up to 69 units, and then a revised downscaled approval in August of 2024. There have been 2 meetings between Mr. Cerrone's firm and the fire marshal, and also with Cositas Engineering. And we, as I mentioned, we received comments from the fire marshal on November 14th. We filed a response memo. The site plan clarifications were provided as requested. And no remaining issues to our awareness. Jim, if you could go to the next slide, please. Just a little bit about affordable housing need in Fairfield and the region. On the Department of Housing 2023 10% list, Fairfield is at 3.05% overall. I would note that we included in our materials an excerpt from your 2022 Section 830J Affordable Housing Plan, made that part of the record. I'm going to go off script for a minute and just say that I had a role with the state 2 years ago where I reviewed just about every 830J plan in the state. And I think the town of Fairfields was one of the much better done ones, and I commend you for that effort. But as you know, from that plan and also from your draft plan of conservation and development, there remains a need. The draft POCD from August of this year says, among other things, that more than half of the town of Fairfield's renters are so-called cost burdened, meaning that they pay more than 30% of their income for rent or for housing. The town of Fairfield certainly has made some progress, as shown by the 830G moratorium application you recently filed. I've not yet reviewed that, but I will say that if it is properly documented, I hope it's granted. If the next slide, Mr. Wendt, please.
Emmeline's now driving.
I'm sorry?
Emmeline Harrigan is driving it at this point.
Quick
Okay.
question from Commissioner Harrison.
Yeah, I just had a question. So we have not adopted the August draft of the POCD. I don't think that should be in the record because it hasn't been formally adopted by this commission. So I'd like to strike that from the record.
Okay, that's fine, Commissioner Harrison. It's a public document.
Yeah, but it hasn't been passed, Attorney Hollister.
Okay, no
We're
reason.
still in our review cycle.
Okay, no reason to argue about that. I believe the 830J plan also makes references to cost burden households in Fairfield. So that's fine. There's no
Thank you.
reason to do that. The proposed residential program, we can go to the next slide, Mr. Wendt. The 46 total units, predominantly one-bedroom units, which I think is an important thing to bear in mind. Little bit on the unusual side in the sense that we more generally see a closer balance of 1 and 2 bedroom, but the property owner and applicant has determined that this is the mix that works best in this location. So 39 one-bedroom units and 7 two-bedroom units. Square footages range from, for the one bedrooms, 697 to 838, and for the two bedrooms, 1,036 to 1,131. Very important to note that as we do always in our affordability plans, there is a schedule, in this case, Schedule A, which lays out the required minimum amenities, finishes, and qualities. So there is a guarantee that the affordable units, and indeed in this case, all of the units will be of very high quality because all of the units will be identical. And so keep that in mind, please, that the market rate units and the affordable units, when you walk into them, will have the same amenities, finishes, and quality. The housing units are housing opportunity units, we call them, are dispersed throughout the building and throughout the bedroom types to meet the comparability requirement that has evolved under 830G. You can see, I'm not going to go through this, but you can see we did the calculation of maximum income and maximum rent. Mr. Barnhart pointed out that we may have had a digit wrong on one of the fair market rents for Bridgeport and area and Fairfield. And if in the memo that I distributed tonight, I made sure that we will agree to correct that. Mr. Barnhart had some other minor comments, and basically I think we're in agreement. These are things that can be subject to a condition of approval, and the leasing is not going to commence obviously for 12 to 15 months, and that would be the time to make those clarifications to the affordability plan, with, of course, the staff and the commission review being an important part of that.
Commissioner Hollister, Ron.
I just have a couple of questions about affordability.
Sure.
In one of your memos, I don't have it in front of me, we got about 3 things that are a couple hundred pages each, but I know I read somewhere, it might be the slide before this, that the ratio, which is the total affordable units divided by the total housing units in the town, has only gone up from whatever, 2% to 3% in the last 30 years. But is that the ratio where it includes CHFA, use of CHFA loans and Section 8 housing vouchers in the numerator or not?
Yes, that is the ratio of total units, including all 4 categories that are part of the 10% list.
So it's a little bit hard to understand because it doesn't really reflect actual progress in building new units.
It doesn't reflect the raw number. I agree with you that. And the other, of course, the other thing, CHFA rental certificates can fluctuate year to year. But we did try to do a comparison, as we always do. Where were you 30 years ago and where are you now?
You're aware also that the towns don't get a lot of vouchers from the state. They go to
Understood.
the big cities.
That's beyond
So
your
it's not
control.
even our fault if we don't have a lot of Section 8 tenants living in this town.
I understand.
I have another question. The 40, somewhere, maybe in the narrative in your memo, affordable housing memo, it says that 48% of renters in our town are housing cost burden. That may or may not also appear in our draft POCD, but if it does, I might challenge that because I don't know what the source of that information is.
The source of that information was the Partnership for Strong Communities, which tracks this data on a statewide basis.
Okay, but that is not a government entity, is it?
No.
So that is, I believe, a housing development advocacy group.
Well, Commissioner Braun, I know, but that's.
We have to make a record.
This is, I think, a lot of background information.
This is very important.
I
would agree. It's
I
also
agree.
very.
I just
think
want
we
to
can
make a
follow
record
it.
because sometimes if things happen and things go to court, the court then, I've seen it in footnotes in court appeals, that your ratio went down, but no acknowledgement is made why it might have gone down. How can a ratio go down if you're adding affordable housing units every year? It goes down because the ratio itself has a lot of problems with it. So I just wanted to point out and understand a few issues. We are continually adding to our 8-30G qualified affordable housing units in the absolute number every year, aren't we?
Yes, and your moratorium application, I'm assuming will reflect that.
The
If you want to
moratorium is
make,
different than the ratio.
yes,
Number,
yes.
okay.
And I would say, is it 48%? I think we
Cost
consider.
burden? Well, we'd have to really analyze the number. What does that include? The 48%?
Yes, all I'm saying is I don't know that we're claiming it's exactly 48%, but as a range, and by the way, that range is not out of whack for the towns in Lower
I
Fairfield County.
understand, but I'd like to know what's in it. Are they struggling families? Are they 20-something kids that just want to live in an apartment and can't afford the rent very well? I mean, without really understanding what's behind it, it's hard to know how significant is the need? And that really goes into the whole analysis of 8-30G.
I would completely agree with you that this is somewhat a blunt force instrument, but
Yes, it
but it's intended to show that there is continuing need for lower cost units in Fairfield and surrounding towns. And I don't know that we need to take it further than that.
Okay, I understand that. One other clarification. I drove by the neighborhood today. That's number 66, not demolished yet, but it says demo on it.
Oh,
So it's still
I
standing.
was told yesterday that it was slated for today.
So I
If it
thought
didn't
today,
happen,
it's still
then,
standing.
Still
okay, okay.
I'm so
We-
sorry,
we
I'd just like
also-
a point
we
of
have a-
clarification on your question.
No, thank you. It's not public comment.
We have a parking ratio that works out to more than 1.5 spaces for each 2-bedroom unit and one per 1-bedroom unit, 55 total. We have an affirmative fair housing marketing plan as required, which is intended to make sure that if these units are built, that their accessibility will be advertised regionally and so that people know of the opportunity. As I mentioned, we did respond in the memo that's in front of you to Mr. Barnhart's memo from last week about our affordability plan. Basically, we agree it can be a conditional approval, and we will address the minor issues that he raised in that. Jim, if we could go to the next slide, please.
I have a question before you go.
No,
You said
sir,
you're only
sir.
building-
Let me just go over the process quickly.
But as he's going along, I have questions, you'll
No,
forget.
sir, hold on. Let me go over the process then quickly. We have the applicant has the initial presentation. He will go through, he and the attorneys and the experts they bring will go over through their application. If you have questions after their initial presentation is public comment portion. At that time, any member of the public that wishes to come up and address the application, ask any questions of the applicant through the commission. So if you have questions, please write them down, but this is, the initial presentation is for the commission to ask questions at this point. But after the initial presentation will be public comments, and then we'll go back to rebuttal, and we'll see where we are We're in public comment. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alistair.
The very purpose of this slide at this point is just to show that, as I mentioned earlier, this is what any land use planner would call a mixed use neighborhood, commercial uses, a variety of building types. But overall, we think it's an appropriate location for a fairly small multifamily residential building. Bus stops along the Tungus Hill Road to the east and west of the site. Grocery store, several restaurants, barber shop, nail salon, and coffee shops. The neighborhood amenities that lend themselves to occupancy of this type. So now I'm going to turn it over to our architect, Mr. Phil Cerrone.
For the record, my name is Philip Cerrone, but I'm good, believe me. If anybody can't hear me, please tell me, but for the record, my name is Philip Cerrone. My office is here in Fairfield, Connecticut. We're the architects for this project. So just to kind of give you a quick overview, and then we can kind of go through some of the other slides, but using this slide to start with, the building on the Tungus Hill side has a garage entrance with 3 levels of residential units above it. The residentials are 15 to 16 units on each one of the floors. And as Tim said before, they're dispersed between 1 bedrooms and 2 bedroom units. On the sound view side of the building, the site slopes off enough that we can enter at a lower level. So we have 2 levels of parking on the sound view side with 3 levels of residential units above it. The building will be a podium type construction with wood frame for the residential and concrete and steel for the parking decks. Emily, can we go to the next slide, please? We can probably, well, we'll go through this really quickly. So the buildings, I mean, we're designing all of our buildings as energy efficient as possible. It's going to meet the energy code or exceed the energy code for insulation, for HVAC units, for windows, for everything else. And we're using as many sustainable materials as we can. Emily, next slide, please. So this is the lower level of the parking. So this is the level that you would enter on the sound view side. And it doesn't go all the way through. So this is only partially under the building. But as you can see, we have some parking here. We have elevator and stairs that go to all the levels. We have a trash room at the lower level on the Tungus Hill side. So there's a trash chute that brings the trash down from each one of the units. Emily, next slide, please.
Mr. Cerrone, I don't see any street labels on the drawing. Could you
Okay, so
point
sure,
us?
absolutely. I'm sorry about that. On the bottom of the sheet is where, and you'll be able to see it better on the renderings too. The bottom of the sheet is sound view. And then the top of the sheet would be, if we go to the next slide, you'll see better. The driveway entrance on this side here is the entrance on the Tungus Hill side. And then the top of the sheet is the sound view side. So I'm sorry, the right hand. Oh, so I can look at it this way better. Okay, there we go. So that's the entrance on the entrance on the sound view side over there.
So sound view.
Hold on.
Side is Tungus.
Yeah.
Right side.
Right, so the left side is Tungus, the right side is sound view.
Is there a north arrow on all these plans?
Each one sound view?
Show all that. The next couple slides.
Can we go to the next, Emily, can you go to the next slide?
I have a question too. Sorry.
The sound view. Hold on, guys, please. No questions from the Commissioner Harrison, go ahead. but
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm doing this remotely. Sorry, I'm doing this remotely.
After this question from the commission, I'd like Mr. Cerrone to get through his presentation.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I thought I saw some kind of slope in the building design. Was I mistaken?
No, the site slopes from sound view at the lower level, which has the 2 levels of parking. It slopes up to Tungus, approximately 8 to 9 feet of slope from the sound view side to the Tungus side, which is why on the sound view side, we have 2 levels of parking with the residential above, and on the Tungus Hill side, we have 1 level of parking with the parking above.
Okay, thank you.
Emily, can we go to the next slide? We can skip past this. So all the floors have, and yeah, so there we go. So this is the the sound view side of the building, so you can see the lowest level, which has like a stucco type of material on it, is the parking garage. The next level is the parking that's accessed off of the Tungus Hill side, and then we have the 3 levels of residential above it. The building on the exterior is a composite clapboard type siding. The lowest level, as I said, is a stucco type material. The top where the mansard is an asphalt shingled roof, and we tried to keep the scale of the building down as much as we could, which is why we did the mansard on top versus more of a gable roof or a full story with another roof above it over there. As far as the height of the building goes, the first rendering you saw, which is, Emily, is there any way you could go to the first picture in the slideshow? Yeah, so this shows, no, that's not, is that the first one? Do we have both renderings in there?
Yeah,
Is it the next one?
maybe the last.
No. Okay. Okay, so in any case. You can go to the elevations, it's fine, because you can see, if you go to the one before this one, actually, you can see. Yeah, you can see where the buildings, where the land slopes. Yeah, that's the one I want.
Okay, it's in tab 3 of your supplemental materials, second page.
Yeah, okay, it's not on there then. So in any case, you know, we get, as far as the height of the building goes, just to kind of give you a gauge, the building across the street, which is the SCAP building, is a couple of feet taller, because we actually did work on the building, so we know the height of it. Our building is a couple of feet shorter than the building that's across the street, the 2 buildings that are the 2 SCAP buildings across the street, to just kind of give you a scale. And as you know, the street slopes up, so as you get further up the street, buildings are going to be a little bit taller in relation to our buildings. You know,
I see you, but let's just let him get through his presentation, then we can keep questions at the end.
so, as Tim said, we met with the fire marshal, went through all the codes. Building will be fully sprinklered. There's hydrants within about 150 feet of the street. The fire marshal seems okay with that, but we will, of course, if he wants us to add a fire hydrant, we would. Well, fire department connections, he's going to want fire department connections on both streets, on both sides of the building, so that if they're fighting a fire, they can fight it from there. Standpipes in all of the stairwells. The elevator is a stretcher sized elevator. And the building is designed so that you can drive an ambulance or an emergency vehicle into the garage if, God forbid, somebody's having an incident and they need to be taken out in a stretcher. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Braun.
In another slideshow, in one of the many documents we have, there was a rendering of this building as it sits in context with the other houses. I don't know if that's this slideshow or PowerPoint, but I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, so it's the one that's this one here. Not that, the one that's tabbed right. It's this one.
Is that on the slideshow? Is that,
I don't think this is slides.
so would you say this is roughly about twice the height of the buildings next door?
I wouldn't say it's twice the height. I mean, this building's on this side of the building, it's about 42 feet tall. The buildings next door are probably to the peaks of them 25 to 30 feet.
It looks like about twice the height. What you're showing now, could you just identify what plan you're showing for reference?
I'm sorry, what?
Identify what we're looking at, just so I can refer to it and ask a question about it.
Right, so the elevation on the bottom is the elevation on the Tungus Hill side. So you can see the parking on the one level with the 3 levels above that. The elevation on the top is the side
Mr. Braun, I
elevation.
think she wants to know
And
what
then the
the,
streets,
what the-
which street goes in which direction? Thank you, Tom. Chairman.
So the Tungus Hill would be on the top elevation. Tungus Hill would be on the left side and Soundview would be on the right side.
So on the Soundview side, so Tungus Hill is a commercial thoroughfare. It's
Correct.
fairly wide, mostly commercial, except for next door on the other side. And the SCAP building that you're referring to, is that the same one that goes by a different name now, Gengris or something?
Yeah.
Okay, that's downhill from here, probably at least one block down. That's not directly across from here.
It's diagonally across because if you come out of Beaver Street and go straight across, then that's on the corner where Scap is.
When I drive up that road, it doesn't seem like this is gonna be right across from there. But aside from that, it's the Soundview side that seems problematic because the Soundview side, it looks like it's much taller based on where the street level is. It looks like it's like on the Tungus Hill side, it looks like it's 4 floors, but on the Soundview
Well, it's a
side.
story taller on Soundview for sure because of the way the ground
And the
slopes.
problem is Soundview is where all the small houses are, all the little single-family homes and duplexes that are much smaller than this. And I also note that on the Soundview, so you're going in the lower level parking garage on the Soundview side and the higher level parking garage on the Tungus Hill side, is that the entrance? And you can go in and out in both,
So you
on
can,
both
you
roads?
come in on Soundview, out on Soundview. You can't drive through.
okay,
Because there are 2 different levels. So, and there's no connection between the 2 different levels of parking. And the Soundview side only goes partially underneath. You can drive in on Tungus, out on Tungus, in on Soundview, out on Soundview.
so we're looking at your PowerPoint presentation or your slideshow. And what is the name of this plan, this rendering we're looking at?
Well, these are the north and west elevations.
What's the plan, like
What's the name of it, so I know what
what's
I'm
on the
talking-
bottom right of the plan?
What is the title of the drawing?
Yes, please.
Just so I know what I'm.
West and north elevations.
Okay. So you're looking from the north down at the building. You're looking, I think it goes downhill a little bit from on Soundview in that direction.
Yeah, well, the bottom one, you're standing across the street on Tux's,
Right.
looking at it.
Okay.
And then the top one, as I
I'm
said,
not as concerned about Tungus as I am about Soundview. Because Tungus, again, is a very wide road, it's a commercial road. Soundview is one that has all the little houses on it. So when you're standing at the house uphill from Soundview, I think the numbers go higher when you go up the hill on Soundview. This takes the place of number 80, I think, or 40 years uphill from there.
it is.
So you're looking from the north to the south towards Long Island Sound, right? And to your right, you now have 2 parking garage levels that are facing the residential area. That's
Right.
problematic, and it's also much higher from the grade level, from the grade. It's basically, that's the side that has 48.5 feet in height, right?
So the building's 42 feet on the Soundview side, on the Tungus side, and it's a little bit over 50 feet on the Soundview side.
Oh, because I saw something that said the whole building was 48.5 feet.
The average of, when you average it out.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good to know. Okay, so more than 50 feet tall on the Soundview side. And it's basically, looks more or less like a parking garage on the first 2 levels, which would be more or less the height of the nearby houses, I guess. And can you tell me what the structures are on the top of the roof? I see something up there.
So those are residential units. The 3 levels are residential. We built it into the roof structure to try to keep the mass of the building down.
And what's on top of the roof?
There, the
I
sky.
see something sticking up there.
The word, well, there's some HVAC units that you would see that would project a little bit above the roof. And then there's the only other thing up there on the drawing are the notes.
And where is the elevator?
So the elevator, and actually we realized just before we got to the meeting, the elevator actually would puncture up and you wouldn't see the elevator except for it punctures up just a little bit above the roof, about 3 or 4 feet above the roof, kind of in the middle of this lower elevation.
Is it, we don't have like a filter or something, like where is it on the, looking sideways at the building? Like, is it halfway up the building or?
On the other side.
I'll use the, yeah, there you go.
Oh, there, so here, this is better, all right?
And what street are we standing on?
So this one here, this is Soundview, all right? So you wouldn't see the elevator on this side at all because it's on the other side, but this is Soundview. This is the parking level here. And then this is
I'm
the
sorry, I
parking
can't see.
level.
Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Okay,
Well, this doesn't work on the screen.
thank you, that's okay.
This is the parking level on Soundview. Then this is also the parking level, but we brought the siding down to kind of disguise it and make it a little look more residential looking. This is the top level. Again, we built it into the roof. So we built these kind of dormers into the roof to keep the mass of the building down. And then this slopes up from here going to Tungus around there. That's number 66 on the corner that's being demoed any day now and then. So, and then this is kind of taken off of Google Earth and everything. This is the house that's next door to it here, so.
You're saying the house next door is almost 50 feet tall?
Well, the house next door, I didn't say it was 50 feet tall, but this land slopes up. So as the land slopes up, then the house, our building is set down a little bit lower.
Where's the elevator
You wouldn't see that,
situated?
you can't see the elevator here because it's all the way on the other side of the building.
It's on the
It's on the
south.
sound view side of the building. It's on the Tungus Hill side.
Does the
So
elevator,
I'm sorry, the elevator would be, you wouldn't see it standing here because it's behind this. But it only comes up about 3 feet above that part of the roof.
and how high do the HVAC units go?
Did we figure about 4 or 5 feet above the roof?
5 or 6 feet in their center.
And is that the total mechanical or utility structures on top of the roof? So you have how many HVAC units?
46 of them.
on
But they're
top
all-
of the roof?
Yeah, sure. But they're little, small units and they'll be set in, there's a roof plan in here. They'll be set in the middle of the roof. So although you see them when you look at a straight elevation, you won't see them when you're standing on the ground. There, so you can see them here. We lined them up in the middle of the roof, so they're pretty far back from the edge. So again, when you're looking at it, the rendering's a true rendering. The rendering is taken standing on the street at eye level, looking up at the building, and you don't see the HVAC units.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Saron? It's not done. Oh,
Yeah, is there a landscape plan in your set?
There's not.
Everyone?
We will when we go for our zoning permits. We didn't prepare one for this meeting.
And what's the lot coverage of the property?
You can't hear you back here.
64.8%.
I asked what the lot coverage was and you said
It's 64%.
64%. Here we'll discuss the stormwater.
Land cover.
Absolutely. And the building is set back. Fire department generally likes it to be set 5 to 10 feet from the property lines. So we have set it back. And again, we've met with the fire marshal twice on this, so.
So just to clarify, there's no landscaping plan?
Sorry,
there's no landscaping plan.
Oh, it's a bit unusual. Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure why isn't there one?
we just don't have one. We didn't prepare one for this meeting.
Just to clarify, were you asked to prepare one by the town? I'm just clarifying. You weren't.
I wasn't. Even.
I mean, I don't think they're typically asked to do it. I mean, it's usually just part of the application.
Is your intention to have a
Excuse
landscape?
me, please, members of the public, please, again, their time, we're not taking questions from the public. Again, if you can please keep conversations,
A
really,
yes or no will be good.
not right now, well,
Yeah, no, it will.
go ahead.
Yeah, so the only other thing I would say, I mean, again, we've studied this building, we've met with the building department, met with the fire marshal. We think that the building can be built in a very safe manner. It's in the best interest of the health and safety and welfare of people that will be living there. And we hope that you approve it.
Mr. Braun.
When you said 64%, is that the percent of impervious surface or is that something else? What is the percent of impervious surface? Or is
So
that more for the
if I
engineer?
could just defer that question,
Sure.
Haven's gonna speak to the on Civil in a couple of minutes, and so he can address that at that time.
Lot coverage, the building footprint.
Yeah.
Do you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
This is not directed to you. I might be better directed to Director Wynn. I'm just trying to understand from a compare and contrast to the Sunrise Fairfield at 1571 Stratfield Road, adjacent to Owen Fish, which is a very large unit, which was approved and built. And I'm trying to understand that was approved.
Well, let's talk, I mean,
Is that a
that's,
valid question, or should I
it's a
say?
fine, it's a fine I mean, it's an 830, this is an 830G, that
I
wasn't,
get it. I'm
yeah.
just comparing the size and scope in a
I
neighborhood.
would do that either in our executive session
Okay, that's
or
fine.
offline.
Well, yeah,
Or you can certainly ask.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that sitting here, but I could certainly provide.
right. That's all. Okay. Sidebar. Thank you.
No worries.
I have nothing else. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Barrow.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can everybody hear me?
Hold that microphone. over there.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Avon Bauer. I am a professional engineer with Cedis Engineering LLC out of Fairfield, Connecticut. And I'm here to talk mostly about the grading and stormwater design plan that we put together for this project. The property currently does not have any stormwater infrastructure that we know. There's a couple buildings on site that directly drain right off in overland into Soundview Avenue, which is on the left-hand side of our plan. The property slopes from Tungus Hill Road on the right-hand side down to Soundview Avenue on the left-hand side. And all that runoff from stormwater is currently untreated, going straight into the catch basins on Soundview Avenue. We are proposing a new stormwater detention system to collect all the runoff from the roof areas, as well as the majority of the driveway area on the Soundview side. And we'll go over that in just a few minutes. Just to start, I'd like to point out that all the parking spaces on this are shown on the lower level off of Soundview Avenue. There are 3 EV spaces that are proposed on this level and 1 handicap space on this level. That's the closest to the stairwell and elevator shaft. If you can go to the next sheet, please. So this sheet is the elevation, or is the floor plan kind of underlaid on the Tungus Hill side. So you'd access the building from the right-hand side now on Tungus Hill Road, where there are still 3 EV spaces and 2 handicap spaces on this lot, or on this floor rather, with a total of 36 spaces on this garage level and 19 on the lower, for a grand total of 55 spaces altogether. The garage clearance is at least a minimum of 10 feet, which is more than enough for an ambulance to get in and out should an emergency occur and there need to be access to the building. And on the Soundview portion of the property is a trash and recycling room with a garbage chute, as Phil mentioned. Could you go to the next slide, please? So this slide depicts our drainage plan and grading plan. And we tried to maintain the grades as existing as possible. We are proposing a small swale that will carry the water along that kind of dark black line that you see, to carry the water away and down and around the building, going towards the west and then the south towards Soundview Avenue. We have 2 infiltration systems. Those are located right here and right here. And what those are to do is they take the runoff from the roof leaders and the driveway, or excuse me, just the roof leaders for the building, and direct it back into the groundwater table, above the groundwater table, but back into the surrounding suitable soils, providing water quality, volume, and groundwater recharge. The black pipes that you see here is a 24-inch ADS system. And what that's done is to help mitigate the flow rate of water coming off the buildings during significant storm events. It has a small orifice that allows water to slowly bleed out into the next stage of the system, which would be down here. And then eventually it overflows into a Vortex stormwater quality treatment system before finally discharging into the catch basin on Soundview Avenue. The Vortex was designed to handle the maximum flow during the 100 years, or during the first flush, the 1.3-inch event down into this system, so that it doesn't overflow and can create a stormwater quality mitigation prior to discharging into that catch basin. Could you go to the next slide, please? So to answer Commissioner Braun's question, the total impervious surface, which includes the walkways that we have around the building and the driveways and the building itself, is 69.2%. This is a net increase of 45.9%, but we are picking up 96% of all the new proposed impervious surfaces on the property and treating them through our stormwater quality and detention systems. As I mentioned, we're trying to keep the historic flow pattern, which wants to flow from Tungus Hill down onto Soundview Avenue. And by doing so, we swelled around the building and maintained the grades as much as possible and tried to avoid adding too much building on the lower end. You can see this line right here indicates the limit of the garage on the Soundview Avenue side. Whereas there is on this section, some garage on the Tungus Hill Road side. Would you mind going to the next slide, please? To conclude, we also have around the entire down gradient portion of the property, sediment erosion control silt fence, as well as mud tracking pads at both entrances and protected stockpile areas to ensure that there isn't any adverse impact from sedimentation to the down gradient properties or the street during construction. We did receive engineering approval for these, our drainage plan and our drainage analysis and site plan this afternoon from Megha Jain. She stated that she had no comments to us in an email around 1:15 this afternoon.
We get that email? Yeah, that's late.
Yes, we have.
Got that, okay.
I'm here to answer any questions, should you have any, and I appreciate your time.
Professional opinion.
Oh, yeah, in my professional opinion, I believe that this development will not cause any adverse impacts to any of the neighboring properties from a stormwater perspective.
Commissioner Braun?
So the impervious surface now, what is the square footage and what is the square footage after?
So the existing impervious is 6,043 square feet by our calculations, and our proposed is 17,235 square feet. But as I mentioned, all of the existing is currently not being treated. It is running directly into the stormwater or the storm pipe system in Soundview Avenue.
What is the square footage of the property?
The total property is 24,897 square feet, about 0.57 acres.
So the 17,000 proposed impervious surface is around 70% or so of the total property size after you combine the two lots.
Correct.
And is this is in the Rooster River watershed?
I haven't looked that deep into it, but I would trust that.
So I'm aware just through general knowledge that the Rooster River watershed is severely flood prone. Have you studied the surrounding area to understand what the current flood conditions are? 100 year, 500 year, I think we had a 1,000-year storm recently.
So we're not really able to analyze the whole area just because we don't have that kind of data. But the onus is also not on us to do anything beyond what the town is really requiring, which is the 2 through 100-year storm events. We do have a reduction in volume and rate for the 2 through 100-year storm events for all the new impervious surfaces on our property.
And based on the increase in impervious surface from 6,000 square feet to 17,000 square feet, is the volume or the rate or both increasing of stormwater that is created by the development?
No, they are both decreasing or very close to the same. We're maintaining the
You're talking about
historic
water
levels.
leaving the site. I'm talking about
Correct.
water being generated. I thought I read that it was increasing. The rate was increased.
Well, the water leaving the site is technically increasing where the stormwater system is not proposed. Would you mind going back just one slide or? Yeah. So with these stormwater systems, what their goal is to meet the standard set by the town for the 2 through 100-year storm events, that we are not increasing the water leaving our property.
What happens in a 500-year event?
We didn't study that as it's not a requirement by the town.
What could happen? As a professional, I'm just asking your opinion, what could happen in a 500-year event?
So all of these systems are designed, they have small, right here, these little boxes that you see are overflow structures, and they do eventually actually discharge directly into the storm drainage system. They're all designed with the capacity to allow the water to flow out should they fill up beyond their capacity.
Do you create new catch basins or does it go into an existing catch basin?
So as far as in the town right of way, there's going to be the existing catch basin right here that we're tying into. But all the new structures on our property, they don't exist now and they will be implemented as part of our drainage design.
And if it overflows the system because of a storm that can't be accommodated in however you're collecting it there, where does the water go?
It would continue down the natural grade down onto Soundview Avenue and into the street.
You know if there's current flooding situations now in a 500-year storm down that road?
Not that I'm aware of. It is a pretty heavily sloped road, so there's probably a pretty good amount of conveyance.
Okay.
But
So the reason I'm asking this, even though it's an 8-30G, we have to make sure it's safe. And if it's not safe, we can deny it. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the engineering practices are or what is normally done. If this site is very flood prone and this could generate too much water to make it not safe, then I would say, I would like to have it more than 100 years, and I would like to have those figures to see what would happen. Because, we keep approving projects and adding impervious surface. I don't know where the water goes. I don't know where it goes. Eventually it will overflow and go down the road, I guess.
So that's what the goal of our infiltration systems are right here and right here. They
It only
do,
holds 1.3 inches, right?
no, the 1.3 inches is the capacity of the vortex system. So should these units, for whatever reason, fail, the capacity of the water from the entire site that's going into these units, the water quality would be maintained.
The
going
whole
into the street
system is
system.
designed to hold, you said 1.3 inches of water, first flush.
No, the vortex is designed to hold the capacity for the first flush. It's able to pass that water through without backing up into the system. The system provides additional storage beyond that.
How much storage? How much rainfall?
Up to the 100-year storm event, designed to make sure that we are not increasing the amount of water going to neighboring properties.
So for how long does it hold the water?
Depending on the amount of storm and how full these are, it could be a matter of a couple days, depending if we get a significant rain event. In regular, 1-inch rainfalls, it could be a matter of a few hours.
And again, so if you have too much, too fast, the water would not go, it would overflow the system and go down the road.
It wouldn't go into the road, it would go through the vortex system and down into the catch basin.
But the vortex can only hold 1.3 inches at a time.
What 1.3, it has the capacity to go beyond the 1.3. The standard that we had to meet was meeting that minimum 1.3.
And the water that's being collected is not coming from inside the parking garage. That's good at least.
No, that's all, it's all water that wouldn't actually have fallen off the site and down and flowed.
And the sidewalks, can you point out where the sidewalks are on this plan?
Yes, so there's a sidewalk right here proposed along Tungus Hill Road and another one proposed along Soundview Avenue with small walkways just to access those sidewalks
There's
from
no
the
sidewalks
access.
on the bottom. Is the bottom of that map? What is the name? Could you identify this?
Sorry, these are two residential properties, or the two,
Is that the uphill or the downhill side?
this is the uphill side, this is Tungus Hill Road.
North arrow in the upper.
Yeah, this is North Arrow right here.
Okay, so. Oh, north, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So are there walkways along
Yes,
the edge of the properties, like from one road to the other road or not?
no, there's not really a need for that, because there is, if you wanted to get to it from either side, you would go down this stairwell and it could bring you down to Tungus Hill Road, or you would be able to walk through the garage on the lower level down here and go down out of the entrance here
Okay.
onto
What is
Soundview.
in that square that doesn't have, that's not colored in dark gray? What is that whole section? It's
This
like a
right here?
quarter of the whole plan, a large. The building is L-shaped. What's
here?
in the vacant part? What is up? No, to the right of that.
Right,
What is-
this,
What is that? No, the whole big square. It's like a quarter of the whole building. What is that?
That's my house.
this is a neighboring property.
Oh, that's a house?
Yeah, the property line sits right here.
Yes.
And how close is this to the property line?
I believe it's about 10 feet
For the building or for the?
for the building.
Okay, and is that around the whole 10 feet in each direction?
It's about 10 feet along this face, these faces here. Just because the property jogs, it's a little closer, but this is the street side. From the street, it's the same
This
distance.
might be a question for the architect, but it came to mind and I didn't get a chance to ask him, but if you do know the answer, I'd appreciate it. They said there's a gym here as well and storage units. Are those storage units related to the gym or are they related to just anybody who wants to store stuff instead of going to a self-storage place?
Well, so they'll be for the tenants that live in the building.
There's 24 storage units, but there's 46 units.
Right, so
and-
not everybody gets one. So if you pay extra, or they might say, whoever wants a storage room, you pay X number of dollars a month for the storage
Oh, you
units.
pay for the storage units?
You pay for everything.
I mean,
So
it's not included in your rent.
it depends. I mean, it's up to my client who's sitting over here. He might say, hey, if you want to rent that unit and you want the storage unit, then this is your rent. If you don't want the storage room, this is your rent. But the storage units are for the people that live in the building.
And how big are the storage units?
Do you know well?
Are they like the usual condo thing, like chicken wire unit? Like-
Well, there'll be real walls, but they're, I mean,
Solid walls, solid doors, about 36.
We'll have him come up just. so-
This is Will Capel from my office.
What's the square footage of each of the 24 units?
Approximately 41 square feet.
So 41 square feet times 24 units. Do you know what the total area of the storage area? On each floor, right? Both of all three
Yes.
floors. have the storage
We all
units
have
on?
calculators, so we can do the math for you if you want.
Approximately 1,000 square feet.
For all of them.
Okay, yes.
And the gym, where's the gym located?
That would be on the first residential floor.
So the gym is right here.
Right there, that blank area in the inner corner.
I did it on here. It's right here.
I'll put it at the
Looks
back.
like it's about another 1,000 square feet or so.
About 800 square feet, yes.
Put it at the bike room.
And then
is the
there's
gym
there's
a
also a
membership-
bike room on the garage level.
Bike room? Okay. Is the gym a membership only thing where you pay to join the gym? Or
No,
can
you don't pay to join the gym. If you live in the building, you can use the gym.
Okay. Have you considered maybe removing the gym, some of these amenities and maybe making the building a little bit smaller, scaled back a little bit farther away from the neighbors on Soundview?
Gym only exists on one floor. Eliminating the gym wouldn't really impact the size of the building hardly at all. Maybe it would cut a foot off of it, but the reality is that from a marketability point of view, we want the amenities. Once you get to this number of units, most of the buildings of this number of units is gonna have some sort of amenity space like a gym in it.
I'm thinking like the end of the building, if you took the gym and the storage off, those last two units could be removed.
The gym only exists on one floor, so.
Okay,
And
yeah,
if
I hear
you,
it.
so you gotta use this screen, right? So if we took these two units and slid it down, potentially you could lose this unit, but it makes the building not as marketable and you'd only use it on one floor.
I have a question about trees. I didn't get a chance to ask before. How many trees are being removed and how many are being replaced? Or how many trees are you leaving versus removing? And are you planning on replacing any that you're removing during construction?
I don't foresee that we're saving any that are on our property. I don't have an answer right now of how many trees will be planted. We don't have a landscape plan, as we said before. so.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Move on to traffic.
Just one quick question.
Right off.
Are you in close proximity to any wetlands?
Not that I'm aware of, there aren't any on the property, and any of our stormwater runoff that would go to across the street would be intercepted by the street before anything was impacted to.
So there are no, because I didn't see any mention of wetlands in your plans. I want to make sure I wasn't missing something, so.
No, I believe the conservation department did review this and they confirmed there are no wetlands on the property.
So before we go to traffic, just a question, if I can go back to affordability. This might be for you, council. So nitpicking, but the storage units, 24, how many units in the building overall? 40.
46.
So would that impact affordability on any level?
Generally, an optional service, net fee, storage unit would be extra for both the market rate and the affordable unit.
So everyone,
And the cost is really quite modest. It's just
I know, but if it's the application is it's an 8-30G because your client is looking to provide opportunity to those who can't ordinarily afford it to live here in Fair. Is that fair to say? So I think the 24 storage units are going to go to the folks paying full rate, would be my guess.
Well, our experience is that's not always the case. People
I don't want to talk about experience, council. I don't mean to cut you off, but it should be on a sliding scale at minimum. We're going to be so altruistic and you know, put up an 8-30G in the middle of the neighborhood. I think it should go across the board. That's like,
the experience is that it's not automatically the market rate units that want the storage space. They have bigger units generally.
We can't hear you.
The general experience is not always the market rate units that want the affordable, that want the storage spaces. I'm sure the owners of the building, the operators would make sure that the storage units are equitably allocated. No one doesn't need to hoard it as a resource. It's not that kind of amenity.
thank you.
Commissioner Grant.
Getting back to affordability, one of the items mentioned in Mr. Barnhart's memo that was just posted today, it wasn't on the website before today, indicated that the affordable one-bedroom units are only 86% the size of the non-affordable one-bedroom units. Is that going to be corrected to make them equal?
Well, as I said in my response today, that is not an issue. The standard is comparable. The standard is not identical. It's not unusual for affordable units to be slightly smaller than market rate units. It's not, remember I said we focused on the fact that the amenities, the finishes, the quality, all of the units will be identical. 14% slightly smaller on average for the affordables is not a comparability issue.
It seems like 14% reduction in size. That seems significant to me.
Well,
Just for the affordable units.
the standard ratio from market to market rate units to affordable is about 70%. So we're well within that.
Doesn't seem equal or even comparable.
Well, but the standard is not exactly equal or identical. And that's really why we have the Schedule A. You walk into the unit, you have the identical finishes, amenities that you have in the market rate unit.
Smaller. And then the fire marshal had mentioned something about EVs, that he would like to have them not in the garage. What did he say about the EVs and how is that being addressed?
Yeah, so his comment was to have them as close to the garage or close to the entrances as possible because all of our parking is within the garage. We had them in the same area adjacent on both of them, and from the Tungus Hills, from the Soundview side, they're the first couple ones to the left.
What is the reason for the EVs not being deeper into the garage?
They have concerns over fire concerns, but to be honest, though, the garages are all completely steel and concrete for the most part. There's not really a lot of flammable materials in that area.
The issue with the EVs is they burn for a long time. So firemen want to be able to fight the fire if they can from outside the garage.
You can't find an EV.
Typically, this is typical in every town in Connecticut now. When they're in a garage, they want them as close to the exterior as they can be.
And then, thank you.
Sierra.
Understanding the layout of the two garages, that was a little confusing. You showed the Soundview one goes sideways up Soundview, but not towards Tungus. I mean, that would be the ground, that would be the
Mind
lower
going
level.
a couple slides forward?
So what we're looking at now in
Please.
this rendering, okay,
Next one, or next, keep going.
I have the gray,
Yeah, I think it's the next slide, the one after it. Two more slides there, right?
that
There.
one, yeah. You just show the outline of.
Yep.
And also the level, explain the level again.
So Soundview Avenue is right here. This is the driveway entrance. You come in, there's 3 parking spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 8 over here. And then the remainder sit on this side. This wall right here, because it would be cutting deep into the grade to mitigate the amount of disturbance that we're doing to the ground. This is just gonna be the garage above. There's nothing under here. If you can go to the next slide, please. From the next slide, this is on Tungus Hill Road. This is the access drive here, and this one has a full layer of parking. This would be on top of the parking garage that accesses Soundview. And then these are additional parking spaces from the Tungus Hill Road side.
So the Soundview one is lower down.
Yeah.
And that goes up and down Soundview.
Yeah, that goes left and right on Soundview and slightly back, but it ends right here.
Okay, and the double decker section, that covers the whole building.
That is this section, yeah, but only on the Tungus Hill side
And
is
where are
this.
the EVs gonna be in relation?
EVs are right over here so that they're as far to the exterior of the building as.
That's not near the entrance.
Well, it's as close to the entrance as the parking spot spaces will
That's near
allow.
the houses. right? That's
Yeah.
very close to the house.
Well, the two of the EV spaces are right here because they're the ones facing Soundview Avenue.
And that's on the second floor.
This is on the second floor, yeah, and they're the same. They're in the same spaces on the first floor as well.
Okay, and what's the distance from the edge of that building to the next house up the hill there?
The house, I don't know. I know the property line is about 10 feet.
So there's 2 EVs on the Soundview parking, I'm sorry, the Tungus Hill parking garage that are in the way, wait a minute, this is the Tungus Hill parking garage, right?
Yes, yeah, this is the one on
Well, that's
top.
not near the entrance from Tungus Hill.
Well, but they would fight the fire from Soundview Avenue as well.
Oh, you mean they would go in the windows on the second floor and fight the fire? Okay,
For an EV.
okay.
Yeah, they would have access to
I thought
this
the fire
entire
truck
base.
had to go into the building.
No, the fire trucks aren't able to enter the
I'm
building.
not an expert
They're-
on this,
yeah.
so.
No,
okay.
I understand.
So if there's a fire with those two EV space, and by that you mean there's chargers, right?
Yeah, they're chargers.
And what is the risk involved? How does that work? I don't know how EV batteries work.
To be
They seem
honest-
Explode a lot.
I'm not entirely sure about that. That's up to the fire marshal's determination. That was just his request.
So there's two EV spots on that level, on the
Three.
Tungus Hill parking garage level, which is the second floor.
3 right here, and they're reciprocated on the lower floor as well, the Soundview floor. So there's a total of 6.
Okay, and they're all on that end of the building, but that's closest to the houses also. So that's a little bit of a concern. So, and a fire truck would have to go down Soundview Avenue to put out the fire in the windows.
If that were the concern, yeah.
And let's be clear about this too, because I want to make sure we all understand. We're meeting state statute about the 6 parking spaces that have to have EV charging stations. We're not putting the EV charging stations in currently. State statute says you have to have the infrastructure to be able to put them in. So at this point, we'll just be running conduits to them. At some point in the future, my client can decide to put them in or not, but we're not committed to putting them in right now anyway. But they will fight the fire from outside, even if it's on the second floor. And we probably, once they're in, they would probably make us add additional sprinkler heads in that area.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, fire marshals reviewed this plan as to where the EV spaces are gonna be.
Yes.
And he's approved, you said he's approved that?
He hasn't, I mean, I don't know that he's like, a stamp of approval on it, but he's requested them near the exterior of the building. We're happy to make it a condition of approval.
The exterior of the building or the exit and exit entrance?
He just said near the exterior of the building, not necessarily near the driveway entrance.
Well, we can reach out to the
And
fire.
of course, we would need to get a fire permit and a building permit as part of our process. So
understand.
ultimately, yes.
No, I know, but Commissioner Braun's point is taken that, that this is part of our consideration for health, safety, all that, the standard. We can reach out to the fire marshal as well, to do that.
We'd be happy to make it a condition of approval that.
Yeah, I mean,
Of the fire marshal.
condition of approval or reasonable accommodation, there's things that can be done.
100%.
Commissioner Braun?
Okay, so I have the memo, because that's in this pamphlet that we got today. Okay, it's supplemental materials. And it's also, I know it's on the website because I saw it, but, and that on tab number 1, it has the Q&A from the fire marshal. There are quite a few questions they had. And you wrote an answer, or somebody wrote an answer, and it's item number 8. So the fire marshal's question was, EV charging stations should be located away from the structure where possible. If locations are to be in the garage area, main level at openings are preferable. What does that mean, main level at openings to you?
It means
That doesn't look like main level or open. It's like second level, not near the entrance.
Well, yeah, so they're not on, it depends which side of the street you're on. It's the main level on Tungus and it's the main level on Soundview. And we just felt that it was better to disperse them on the 2 different levels. Near openings to me means near where the openings are in the garage. It doesn't say
mean the
near
windows?
driveways.
You mean the windows?
Well, they're openings. There's no windows.
Oh, there's no,
There's no windows in the garage. Those are just openings. So maybe that's the confusion. So they could spray water through it. It'd be like that, but without glass in it.
okay. So you're saying that because there are openings like open air.
Yeah.
That's an opening.
We can
That's,
get,
okay.
we can get better
Okay,
clarification.
yeah, that's right. I understand what he's saying.
Yes, but let's be clear, in the garage, those are not windows.
Right, that's
They're
right.
Openings to the air.
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
We can go on traffic, I think, right?
Mr. Chairman, while Mr. Del Rio is coming up, I noticed there seems to be some posting on the chat room function. I assume you don't capture that as part of the record. I'm just saying anybody who wants to do that should be
No,
advised.
that's fair. Yeah, we have the chat function open more for anybody else to,
I just.
she just put a notice out there to,
That comment in the chat that please limit comments.
I'll make the public now, anybody who's writing in the chat box, that's not captured in public comment. During public comment, you need to speak or submit an email. I'm not sure if That's done as
Can we
well.
disable the chat then, just to make it easier, or?
Well, we normally use
Then they
the
don't have-
chat for people to sign up if they wanna.
Oh, okay.
during
So
public
that's what
comment.
we've always been doing, and that's fine. I mean, it captures what we need. So thank you for that. Del Rio.
Good evening, everyone. Greg Del Rio, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, director of traffic engineering for Hardesty and Hanover, and traffic engineer for the team on this development. Can everybody hear me?
Speak up. No, just turn the microphone up.
I got it. We're just gonna go over some traffic issues with the project. One of the first things we do is an inventory of the site and the location and the surrounding transportation network and street network. And that's what this slide is showing. Tungus Hill Road, 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction with 7-foot shoulders. It's fairly tangent in front of the site.
Hold on.
Yep.
I don't know, the screens went dead.
I assume we're off the record. Oh, wait a minute.
No, they're back.
Don't move.
HDMI 1. Whatever.
Right, and there is no parking in front of the site on Tungus Hill Road, and then on Soundview, it's a residential street. 1 lane in each direction with parking allowed. So next slide, please. A brief overview of, sorry, it's hard to see at this scale, but this is the crash summary of the area, and basically at Beaver Street or between Beaver and Marlboro, and all of these are on State Route 58, Tungus Hill roadside. There were no crashes in the last 3 years. On at Marlboro Terrace intersection, there was 2 in the last 3 years, and they were both angled collisions. Then between Marlboro Terrace and Old Stratfield and Tungus Road, there were 4 over the last 3 years. 3 of them were rear end collisions. That's usually queued up at the signals indicating. And then at Old Stratfield Road, Tungus Hill Road, there was another 4 collisions. 3 of them were angled collisions. However, 2 of them were also due to running of a red light. So altogether, 10 on the whole corridor between the 2 ends of the blocks over the 3-year period. So a little more than 3 per year on average. Next slide. On the left is just another crash summary table, but that's for the Soundview side, and there were no crashes on Soundview or the intersections at each end of the street for the last 3 years. So that's straightforward. And then the table on the right is the trip generation expected, anticipated, estimated for the development. So for 47 dwelling units, we would expect 19 trips in the morning and 24 total trips in the evening peak hour. 14 of them are leaving in the morning, right? It's residential. You're going to work, you're going to school, you're leaving. The majority of trips are exiting. And then in the evening, it's the opposite with the majority of trips coming in. And that's 24 trips in the evening. And that's based on ITE's trip generation manual, standard for trip generation.
What hours were used, or what hours are these capturing?
This is between 7 and 9 and between 4 and 6 in the evening. So wherever that peak hour floats.
Thank you.
Yep. Next slide. This is showing the distribution of trips. So as you heard earlier, there's about 65% of the parking spaces face Tungus Hill Road on the top level, and on the bottom level, the rest, the 35% comes in and out of the Soundview Avenue. From there, they disperse and they make their lefts and rights, roughly 40% going north and south on each direction on Tungus Hill Road. I'm sorry, east and west, and then 15% south on Old Stratfield, and 5% north, going north on Tungus Hill Road. So that's the distribution of those trips that we mentioned earlier, the 19 and the 24 trips in the morning and the evening. So we take those trips, we distribute them on top of the existing traffic. And the next slide, please. This is a table showing the summary of the traffic analysis at the intersections. And it's based on, queuing and delays. And we're just highlighting that there was no change in level of service due to these trips put onto the network. So what we do is we do the analysis with the existing condition, and then we do the analysis with those extra 19 and 24 trips on top of it. And you can see that there's no impacts, no changes in level of service, and very, very slight changes of delay, not even 1 second of additional delay during any time or during any movement in the network. And next slide. So that's traffic efficiency. And then the last one is just, again, addressing the sight lines. We look at the sight lines to make sure it's safe to get in and out of the driveways on whatever roadway they're facing. The top of the table is Tungus Hill Road. We do a speed study on Tungus Hill Road, and you can see in the one direction, it's 37 miles per hour, and on the other, it's 36 miles per hour. That's the 85th percentile. And that's what we use to determine how far you need to see in order to safely get out of the driveway or get into the driveway and stop safely in case someone comes out in front of you. So to the left, it's 408 feet on Tungus Hill Road, and there's more than 408 feet visible for the sight line. And then the same thing to the right, you would need 397 feet, and there's more than 397 feet of visibility. Same thing on the Soundview Avenue side. The speeds are a little slower there. They were 24 miles per hour and 23 miles per hour in the different directions, requiring 265 feet, and there's more than 265 feet of visibility. And to the right, 254 feet, and there's more than 254 feet of visibility. So it meets the criteria. That's the summary of traffic.
Do you have the actual lines of sight?
Yes, there's the diagrams are in, the plans are in the plan set showing the sight lines.
It's never like when you say the exact amount that you need plus, and it's just nice to know.
Yes, you can see, that it's further than that.
It's in the summary somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll look for it then.
It's in the plans. My professional opinion is there's no adverse impacts due to the traffic generated by the project.
That's our
Non-traffic, Commissioner Randolph.
So taking left out onto Tungus, does that pose any danger or concerns?
No, I mean, it's similar to any other driveway along Tungus Hill Road. There's many uncontrolled, right across the street. You have the laundry, you have the car wash. Those are allowed to make lefts and rights out of their facilities. And, as I said before, we looked at the crash data. It's,
I know ratios all for different areas, but you're a traffic expert. Can you comment on the proposed parking ratios?
Yeah, they appear adequate. They meet code. So, and we've seen this on other similar developments that we've looked at that have not had overflow parking conditions.
Could you elaborate on that, please?
Well, there was, not too long ago, we were looking at trip generation. We had that question come up on a prior application, and we also observed the parking lot there.
So in your experience and based upon the IT standards and which are getting updated for a building of this type, will the parking garage accommodate the occupants? Will there be need for street parking?
I don't foresee that. No, it meets code, so.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not asking about meeting code, I'm asking about your professional opinion based upon other similar building types. In your experience, will the parking provided be enough to accommodate the occupants?
Yes, it should be.
Yes, you said.
Yes.
Remind me the parking ratio again?
For each 2-bedroom, 1.5, each 1-bedroom, 1.0,
How many parking spaces total?
55.
How many? We don't hear.
55.
55.
I had a
Uh,
question.
I'm just finishing up. There's no connection between the two, correct? So is there gonna be assigned parking?
I don't know that we got that far. You know, a lot of it depends.
We don't hear you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Based on my experience, I think the site is going to be overparked. We're not going to have to assign in order to make sure everyone has a place to park, but that's just my experience. But we can agree to assign parking if
Well,
that's
the
the
concern I
commission's
have is
wish.
this, if, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. No, they don't connect. And it's gonna leave the residents potentially, I'll say guessing, where the occupancy is, where the open spaces are. And will that not, I mean, I would think if you go to one area, you can't find a spot. You have to go out, cause electrical trip generation. That's the thought that I have.
That's a very good point. I think that we'll take that to our client and that might be a reason to assign spaces. I think you're correct.
What's the, on the 2 levels, what's the parking spots per level? And the one off of Tungus is smaller.
19 on the lower, 36 on the upper.
Oh, I was
19 on the lower level, 36 on the second level.
Lower level is, which,
Which one is lower level is
Lower
Soundview?
level is Soundview, higher level is
You're gonna be
Tungus.
wanting to put people onto off of Tungus, which is probably
Right.
better.
So you've got 2/3.
Alright, I mean, I would consider that just because potentially guessing, avoid extra trip generations, and just a thought.
and on-street parking too, because you may.
Well, if you can avoid it, yeah.
You were like, I'm not gonna.
Well,
go
yeah,
around
that's
the
a,
block,
that's
I'm just
a,
gonna
no,
park on
that's
the
a fair
street,
point
go-
too. You go to one, it's just, forget it. I want to stay on the bottom one. There's no spot. I park there because when I go up and around, yeah. no,
Yeah,
it's a fair point.
and I think if we did establish
Ladies and
even,
gentlemen, please.
I think if we did establish even a partial assignment system would be based on trying to align the location of the space with the location of the closest stairwell.
Floors, yeah, whatever. Just, I think, maybe a detailed point, but something to consider.
Yeah.
Oh, Commissioner Harrison, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. 2 questions, Attorney Hollister. I didn't hear any discussion about where deliveries would be taking place, Amazon, Uber Eats, et cetera. Can you just talk about where that area would be?
I'll ask Mr. Cerrone to take that one.
Great. Then, Mr. Chairman, I had a question about parking too.
Sharon will answer that.
I don't need the mic. So the garage is tall enough that Amazon Sprinter vans and that kind of thing will be able to pull into the garage.
Hold on one second. That. Hold on. Okay. Can you
We
just,
good?
yeah, I don't know what that feedback was. Go ahead.
That's
Start
fine.
over, please.
The garages are big enough that the Amazon vans, Sprinter vans, delivery vans will all be able to go into the garage. And then we'll have mailboxes and package boxes that are in the vestibule and lobby area of the garage.
Okay. And the door would always be open, or would be like the code to go into the apartment
If
building?
it's locked, then we would make sure that those drivers have a way to get in. So you can do a passcode for them, so.
Okay, thank you. And then just to confirm, Mr. Hollister, Attorney Hollister, it's 1.5 parking spaces per unit?
1.5 for each of the 2-bedroom units,
Okay.
1.0 for each of the 1-bedroom units.
So where would the excess parking go? What are you anticipating? The reality is we live in a car society. Like, where would the excess cars go? If people have more than 1 or 2 cars?
Well, first, please understand that the applicant here, the last thing he wants is an underparked facility. This is a.
I know, but there are unintended consequences of applications. That's just the world we live in.
Understood, but this is a property on a busy mixed-use street with 2 bus stops and crosswalks. This is a very walkable location, as I mentioned in my opening remarks. It is going to be possible to live in this building without a car.
All right, just my question though is,
Sidewalk on Soundview.
And the residents who are laughing just are not being heard.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. Thank you.
I'm
There-
sorry that I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, Attorney Hollister. My question though is where are they parking? If there is excess, if they don't have enough parking spaces, you're saying that's not gonna be an issue, but what if it is an issue? Where are they parking?
Well, it's our belief in the design of this building that we don't need on-street parking to accommodate excess people or cars. There is sufficient room. That's what when I said
Ladies and
that,
gentlemen, please.
ladies and gentlemen, please, I have the floor. You'll have your turn. Thank
So
you.
I got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Harrison, we believe this 55 is more spaces than the residents will use, and that there will be spaces for visitors based on the configuration we have. And believe me, we thought about this long and hard based on experience with other comparable buildings. The last thing we want is to have people who who want to come into the building and can't find a parking space. So we believe, it's our opinion, that there's 55 spaces, that is more than adequate for the residents and overflow parking.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Question for the delivery trucks. Are we gonna want them in the parking garage? Are they gonna be able to pull in, do a turn of some sort and be able to pull out? Or are they gonna be backing out?
Well, as far as the movement within the garage, I believe since they can pull in, they can pull out, there is room to back up. I mean, it is possible that people will pull up to along Tungus Hill Road or even Soundview to make their deliveries, but
That might be
you know,
another thought I had was, is there a way to, and this would be on the applicant, the owner, is to get deliveries off of Tungus Hill only?
I believe the delivery space is accessible on the Tungus Hill side.
Yeah, I mean, I would think while we're talking about.
And I just had a follow-up to that too.
While we're talking about assigned spaces, I would also inquire about having the deliveries only be on Tungus. And my thought would be, unless you think an Amazon truck or a FedEx truck can do a 3-point turn in a crowded or in a fully parked lot off of Tungus, that them backing out would not be ideal.
I agree, it wouldn't be ideal, but there is space, turning radius for that.
Turning radius inside. for them to
Inside the
do-
garage,
Do a
yes,
3-point turn of sorts, or whatever it is.
yes.
Yeah, if we look, excuse me, Phil Saran again, if you look at the plan for if you want to put it up there, but if you look at the plan on the Tungus Hill side, we actually have a space marked as a turnaround
Fair enough.
so that you can use it as a turnaround.
Yeah, and just, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Go ahead.
thank you. I just had a question. I mean, Amazon is Amazon, but what about emergency vehicles? That's probably more important than an Amazon truck. Is there enough room for emergency vehicles, for ambulance, for fire trucks in the garage? Where would they go?
The answer to the question is yes, there is, not for a fire truck, but the fire trucks are never driving into a garage, but an emergency vehicle, an ambulance. We've set the heights of this building, as we've done with multiple buildings in town, at least 6 to 10 inches above the height of any of the highest ambulances that are known.
So the fire truck would go on the main thoroughfare, I guess?
Yeah, fire trucks would never go, first of all, the fire truck only is used really if there's a fire. And if there's a fire in the building, the last place the fire truck wants to be is in the building. The building's completely sprinklered, so if there was a fire, the sprinklers would go off at that time. They're gonna fight the fires from outside. There'll be fire department connections on both Soundview and on Tungus Hill that they'll connect their hoses to fight the fires. The fire truck itself won't go in the building.
Okay. And that's standard, you said?
100%.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Braun.
I read somewhere that because belief is that there's too much parking, that there would be ample parking for visitors. Are you designating visitor spaces?
Again, as I was saying to the chairman, we haven't done that yet.
I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing.
Yes,
so I can hear you.
so am I.
Okay.
We haven't gotten that far in terms of designating visitor spaces. I think actually the way a lot of the residential buildings that I've worked on works out is you go through a couple months of occupancy and you start to figure out where the visitor space should be, if there should be one. In other words, it's based on the experience of the people living in the building. Where's the best place to put a visitor space? We could guess now, or we could say that within the first couple months of occupancy, we would do that if it turns out that's the most efficient way to manage the parking garage.
And when you did your sightline analysis, could you explain that, this might be for the traffic person, but when you did your sightline analysis, there's the intersection sightline and then the stopping sightline. Can you explain the difference and why you only did the intersection stop sightline?
The intersection sight line is further than the safe stopping distance.
Okay.
So ISD is the distance that is considered safe as you're sort of from the perspective of the vehicle leaving the site. So I'm leaving, I'm looking to my left, I'm looking to my right, and I see a gap in vehicles to make my move and safely get out. And right, so that's ISD. Safe stopping distance. Sometimes you don't have ISD, the intersections, what I just described, which is really more of a safety and efficiency thing. Safe stopping distance is a little shorter than that, and it's from the perspective of the driver on the road, not from the driver leaving the driveway. That if they see something come out in front of them, they have enough room, enough time to react, hit the brakes and stop before hitting the object that they saw, whether that's a car, whether that's a ball, whether that's whatever might be in the street.
And again, could you just refer to where we can find in the materials, the actual site distance available at looking left and right on both entrances?
So,
It
yeah.
wasn't in the table, but it was somewhere in the.
Yeah, it's not in the traffic study,
How
it's
we
in the
find it?
plan set. It's,
You have to look on the plan and.
yeah,
It's on the bottom right
yeah,
of the
Oh,
plan.
it is in a table though, right?
yeah. It's in a chart, well, it's in a table in my report.
On the
That's
screen.
what I,
And
that's
now
what I
here we
had.
It's on the screen.
And now it's on the screen showing the plan.
So you'd have to measure it or,
Yeah, that's exactly what they do to make
Well,
sure that there's.
I'm
that
not
it's
an engineer. Can you tell me what it is?
So what you want to do is make sure that there's nothing, concrete in the way, right?
That's looking-
Or property. So that, because if there was property, someone could put a tree or a bush, for example, if you were, but you don't. In both of these cases,
So if you're looking at sound view, could you just show us the sight line on sound
Sure.
view?
sure.
Are we still on the record?
Okay, so this is looking,
This is on Tungus Hill Road.
I'm more interested in sound view actually.
Okay.
But, okay, that's Tungus Hill.
Yeah.
Well, both of them would be
Yeah,
interesting.
Tungus Hill Road. You can actually see past the intersection looking to the left, which is right on the screen.
Wait, is this sound view or Tungus Hill? we're
This
looking
is
at?
Sound View now.
Okay.
Right. So what they're showing you basically what we call the site triangle.
What does that mean?
It just, is the angles there that you can see. So the site distance is the red line is showing that you can see without obstruction to an object in the street, which is past the intersection in one direction, which usually we would just go to the intersection because that would be where a vehicle would be coming from
Which intersection? I see
at a
two.
stopped condition, right?
Which intersection there's two intersections depicted on this.
Correct.
One is going south, which is to the right on this plan. And
Yeah,
one
that's
is going-
Beaver is to the right. And, right?
Mhm.
And Stratfield is to the left.
So explain what the red line means then?
The red line
Where
is
are you
that's your
standing?
line of sight.
Okay.
That's taken from 15 feet behind the edge of the road. Right? So if you're in your car as a driver, you're not right up on the sidewalk or the edge of the road, right? You have the front of the nose and then you're back a few feet. So
And if you want to make a right-hand turn, that's easier, obviously, because you're making a right turn. But if you're making a left turn, you have to cross over. And the sight line as it goes diagonally, what does that mean? When it goes, is it where it's ending? Is that the distance you
yeah.
have or the distance you need?
that's the distance you need. Yeah,
And where's
and
the
you
distance
and you have it at least that much. And obviously you can, project that line continuing.
And how do we tell from looking at this what the distances that we actually have?
It's,
that
that's
showing?
it. That's what it's showing.
Oh, and what is the distance? I can't see the numbers from.
Oh, okay, so that was in the tables and it's in here in smaller print, which on this scale. I don't
The
know if
actual
I can see it.
distances are on slide 29, which you
Oh, they
have.
are?
Yeah.
It's just said like the same amount needed and with a plus sign, but are the actual distance?
All you need to do is meet that minimum, right?
What is the
So
actual-
if it's 10 feet more, if it's 0 feet more, you've met the minimum.
Right.
You've
What is
met
the
it.
actual amount
So-
shown? I'm trying to figure
So
out.
we never show more because it meets the minimum.
But I thought you said we could see more. We could find it in
You
here.
can see it right there. You just keep extending the red line.
There's a cliff there.
Do you follow?
So what is, no, I don't.
I don't know how to explain it
What is the
anymore.
distance that we actually have for sight line?
It sounds like Commissioner Braun, that they have, the red line goes all the way to the point of where the minimum is.
Correct.
Stop there because that's the minimum. Obviously, there, if you continue it on, it keeps going, but they did not do the calculation to go what the actual amount is.
And the actual distance is on slide 29, which you have in your,
It is depicted. Okay, I couldn't see it when I looked at that.
but you have that in front
I
of you.
have that, yeah.
Slide 20. Yeah,
Tab is that in?
tab 2.
Commissioner Braun, can I go to Commissioner Randolph?
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Sorry to bounce around with questions, but landscape plan friendly request. I don't see a lighting plan in here or any fixtures indicated on the elevation of the buildings. Some of these, again, we're looking for safety issues, but also lighting is, many of these 830Gs built not conforming with lighting, and lighting is a nuisance. Lighting that's unshielded is a nuisance. Will you be providing a lighting plan?
For the record, Philip Saron, architect. So as far as lighting goes, we're gonna probably have a couple of lights that are sconces that are by the entrances to the building, but other than that, we don't anticipate any site lighting. There's really not that much of a site left once we put the building. The lights, the garages all have lights inside of them, but we're not, and we can do a photometric plan for those couple of lights that we'll have at the exit and entrances to the building.
Metric for the lights in the garage would be very helpful.
Well, it'll only show the photometrics inside the building.
Unless it leaves off the site.
Okay, well, we'll make sure it doesn't, but we can show you that it doesn't. Yes,
That would be
absolutely.
helpful, yeah, because many of the buildings, you're in town, you know which ones I'm talking about. Some of the new buildings, the light bleed is quite noxious.
We can show you a photometric plan that shows that our light bleed is not gonna go out the perimeter of our building.
Are they fully shielded lights?
The ones that are in the garage are not gonna be fully shielded because we'll concentrate the loads and we'll concentrate where they are by not putting them at the exterior of the building. If there's any near the exterior, we'll put shields on them, but we don't anticipate that would be necessary.
So
The ones that are on the outside, the sconces, would be night sky compliant for sure. And if we need to shield them, we will, but they're gonna be more smaller type fixtures with the light focused down.
Yeah, let me just express my concern and just request that you guys address it. Many of these newer buildings, the one on the end of Black Rock, just down the street from here, has unshielded lights. I just would like to make sure that the lights are fully shielded and do not cause a nuisance to any of the surrounding buildings.
100%. I mean, in our garage, being that we have the openings, the ceiling is 2 or 3 feet above where the opening is. So that's gonna also help shield that.
And then also, are there any, all of the utilities screened? So the meters, the panels, are those screened from view?
So the answer is that we're gonna put many of those utilities inside the building. So we're hoping to put our electric meters. The electric meters have to be accessible. Utility companies no longer let you put them in closets or anything like that. So, but we can put them on the wall inside the garage, is what we prefer to do, not mount them outside the building. Right, water is obviously underground, and then we don't know if we're doing gas or not yet. It might be all electric. If it is, then we don't have gas meters. Otherwise, the gas meters, really, we have to work with the gas company. They prefer not to have them inside the building.
Yeah, and so to hit the third noxious, potentially noxious issue is noise. What type of heating units, will the units be using, where will they be located, and will they be generating any noise?
So
HVAC units?
we haven't 100% finalized that, but our plan currently is we'd either do mini splits or we would do furnaces in the units with air conditioning units on the roof. So we're not planning on mounting stuff. You know, some of the buildings have them mounted on the outsides of the buildings. Again, my clients can disagree with me, but we're not planning on doing that.
So you're likely to have heat pumps on the roof
That's the plan.
and, just generally, what's the decibel generation of heat pumps generally?
I don't have that answer.
Can you get that answer?
Sure, we could.
The new station alert has arrived.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. I'm here if you need me.
Commissioner Braun.
3 questions. Where's the trash receptacles and enclosure for recycling and trash?
Take this one down.
The trash receptacles are on the Soundview garage on the lower level.
Can you show me where that is on the plan?
Yeah, would you mind bringing that up, Emmeline?
Sure. So in the garage?
In the garage, they're right next to the entrance, so they're accessible.
Yeah.
So the trash chute comes down and this right here is the trash room. Right, it's the first section right next to the garage entrances.
The garbage trucks are pretty big. Do they go in the garage or how do they?
No, they would be on the street. There are walkways. They would walk right up the driveway and that's why it's the first one here. So they have direct access to the trash room.
So they roll the dumpster through the garage and the garbage truck backs up to the garage? Is that how you envision it?
I don't think all those details have been fully hatched out, but that's one of the options that you could do, yeah.
I mean, is there room inside the garage for the garbage truck?
No, the garbage truck can't get inside the garage itself.
Okay. And is the how big is the enclosure for the trash and recycling? And how many, you have 47 units, 55 bedrooms, I assume 55 people live there.
Yeah, I would say probably about 10 by 10, so.
145 square feet.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. And how many times a week do you anticipate the garbage truck coming to pick up trash?
We don't really know exactly what is gonna be entailed, but as often as it's needed, we'll have to come by.
And all units have you go down the hall and put your.
Yeah, there's a chute in the hall, I believe.
And that's recycling also, or just,
Yeah, I think there's a.
Yeah, so it's generally a double chute and there's a compactor in the bottom. Generally it's a 2-yard dumpster that's in there. In a building like this, it may be emptied every day.
Reason why,
It gets compacted when it gets to the bottom of the chute, so.
any ability to put that up on the Tungus Hill section entrance?
We can take a look at it.
I mean, just for the obvious reason of keeping big trucks like that on the commercial corridor.
We can take a look. I can't answer the
No,
question.
that's fine. That's fine. But that's something to consider because kind of the theme being brought up.
and I know that you mentioned there's only 10 feet of space between the edge of the building, or is that the edge of the sidewalk? Well, you don't have sidewalks on the edge where the other neighboring properties are, right?
No, the sidewalks are there's one right here from this stairwell down to the
Well,
street.
that's near a neighboring property, but do you have screening? Are you putting screening right there? I know there are trees all through this site now. I've seen it from the
There's-
photos here.
There's only a couple of trees on the site, but we don't have a landscape plan as of yet to.
Will
determine
you
what
put
screening.
like arborvitae's or something that can screen the building from all sides where the houses are?
It's something that could be considered the landscape plan, sure.
And would that be a fire hazard if you, for instance, I'm looking at the EV spot. I'm especially concerned about that house that's right in the middle of the L there. Hunks's Hill.
My house.
One of the EV parking spaces is 10 feet from that boundary line, it looks like. So if you did use screening there, which would be very nice, would that be something that would be hard for how would a fire truck get around to that side if there's a battery explosion?
So some of our drainage systems sit inside this corridor, so the screening would have to be up closer to the parking lot because they wouldn't be able to go on top of our drainage infrastructure.
I don't know what that
So-
means, the drainage, you have to have access to the drainage structures?
No, but you can't put any landscaping on top of the drainage structures. Just dirt and grass or a walk pathway.
So that shows the drainage structures?
Yeah, so everything would have to be done along the property lines.
And that's maybe 2 feet.
There's probably about 5 feet between the edges system over on this side and the property line.
That's 10 feet, and those drainage
Well-
systems look like they pick up the whole thing
So
almost.
this area here is closer to about probably 15 feet. The 10 feet I was talking about is in the areas more over here where the property line kind of jogs. But in here, there's about 15 feet between the property lines of the buildings along this side.
Okay,
So there's
yeah.
still a few feet to plant along the property.
So you could put screening there.
Sure, if we needed to.
And on the other side where the other, well,
There's no drainage infrastructure over on this side. This side could be screened however we need to.
and is there a house? I know there's one that's gonna be demolished. I don't know what the plan is,
I
but
believe that's this one right here.
is there a house on Tungus? There's a house on Tungus, actually. I can see it on this plan. Yeah. So there's ample room to put screening there,
Of
right?
course, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm looking at tab 3 of the supplemental material. So can I just show this to you? Because it's not, I don't think you have it on your slideshow. Is this a depiction of the proposed building in context from the Tungus Hill perspective?
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Okay.
that's the actual house on the right that's there
Okay.
and the actual house on the left
Okay.
between us and
I'm just
Bell's.
gonna show it to my fellow commissioners, we all have it, but, so I guess I'm concerned because the house on Tungus Hill is in that L, that's the one that would be in the middle of that L shape, right?
Yep.
And it is so close,
Close.
I'm trying to figure out the parking,
So that area between the
this is
buildings.
confusing, because I don't see the second level of the parking.
Because that's on Tungus Hill Road, so the second level's underneath on Soundview.
And so the electric vehicle would be then at ground level here?
On the far end. It would be on the far end of the L, over on the Soundview side of the property.
So I guess the rear of this property would be in that corner where that.
Yes, yeah, that would be in the L shape.
So how would a fire truck access the EV that's on not on Soundview, but sort of on the inside of that L shape of the building?
They would be able to walk right along the side of the building if they needed to with the hoses.
Okay. And when you, this is for the traffic person, when you studied the sight line, did you take into account what the current pattern is for people parking? I know I drove by there, I was there in the middle of the day, there was still a bunch of cars parked on both sides of the road. And that was not during, evening hours or rush hour, when you would expect more people to be parked on the side of the road. But did you take into account or make note of, record information about the number of cars that park on Soundview, especially now?
For sightline analysis, a parked car is not a permanent fixture and it's not considered in the sightline analysis.
But it's not, there's no law that says you can't consider it if it's a safety issue.
It's not the way it's done. It's not considered as part of the assessment.
Didn't
So
hear you. Can
So I
you
guess
go
my
on?
thought is, 'cause this has come up in a few different matters, okay, that if cars regularly park along that stretch of road now, and that's before you put in this building where there could potentially be overflow parking. It seems to me if they're there all the time, it could be considered as a safety.
if you think it's a consideration or concern, you could put no parking anytime for that 1 or 2 spots.
I don't know if you could do that. I think the town would have to do that.
Yeah.
Right. But, so you did not consider you don't know what the cars are.
I
where
don't
they park now.
know how often or where they park. From street view, they're parking on the other side of the street.
What does that mean? From street?
Street view, Google Street View.
Mhm.
He's asking them.
If you look on Google
I've
Street View
seen,
right
yeah,
now of
yeah.
Soundview, you'll see all the cars parked on the opposite side of the street. I don't think there's maybe 2 further
I
west.
took a picture of number 80 and their cars are parked on the same side of the road.
Commissioner Vaughn, let's not, unless you're gonna put that in the record, I wouldn't.
Okay, so you didn't study it, so we don't have that data. Thank you.
Attorney Hollister, anything further?
No, sir.
We have rebuttal if there's any questions that come up. So at this point, I will close the initial presentation portion of the application. Open it up to public comments. Don't worry. I know most people are gonna want to be heard, which is totally fair and fine. What we've normally done is. If anybody wants to speak, and I know it's more than one and not all, which is fine, please come up one at a time. My thought would be first come, first serve, kind of get a sense of who's up, who's next. You can just give your name, your address, keep your comments germane to the issue. If anybody's submitted anything by email, I would ask not to repeat everything that's been submitted by email. Start here, we'll see how things go. If you want to set up a line, that's fine. Let's start with that and see how it works.
You're talking to a microphone or not?
I would, because I think most people that hurt. Feel free to sit down.
Okay.
You can just give your name, your address. We'll go with the people that are here in person. Is everybody okay standing for now?
My name is Ana Maria
Oh,
Gao.
ma'am, we got, sorry, one right in front of you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Elwood and I live at 186 Soundview Avenue. And mostly my concerns have to do with pollution. One, noise pollution and having these units, 46 units on the roof. It's already very loud from hearing the highway. That's just where we live. So that's a very big issue is the noise pollution. Secondly, the trash and how that's being handled. There are raccoons, rats, and skunks all in the neighborhood. I've seen them. They're in my yard, not the rats, but I've seen them across the street. The raccoons and the skunks are regular visitors, and I humanely trap them and remove them and give them to the cemetery and let them live out their lives there, but they still come back. So that is huge with the trash. That's a major issue. And then thank you, Commissioner Braun, for looking at the street. There are cars parked up and down Soundview Avenue all day long. And generally, it's not a two-way street, it's a one-way street. So when you're going up or down, you have to be considerate and let the car pass, or they let you pass. And as you're going down Soundview Avenue in the morning on my way to work, I don't like to go down Soundview onto Old Stratfield because you cannot see. I have to go around to Elizabeth and down Sterling where the view is better because it's the traffic, even with the light there, is terrible. And it doesn't appear that anyone took into consideration the traffic now on the other side. If people are going to work, they're going to go to Black Rock Turnpike. You cannot get out Black Rock Turnpike. So you're
Just address us.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
But they
Don't worry.
didn't, sorry, but they didn't look at that. You have to go down Adelaide, you have to go down Prince to get down Jennings to get to the light, because you cannot turn on Black Rock Turnpike off Old Stratfield. So where are 90 cars going to go?
Can you say that again?
Okay, so you're on Soundview Avenue, you have to go to work. So you're on Soundview and Old Stratfield. Most people are heading toward Black Rock Turnpike. There's no light there. You have to go down any of those side streets, Adelaide, Prince, and you go down and then you go on Jennings and you get to the light. That's the only way to get out of there in the morning and in the evening.
That's real bad.
So, and then there was the water. I've had water in my basement. I'm on the hill. I have water all the time. Somebody on this board had my neighbor put in a drain so that I would get less water, and that has helped considerably. But there is the water in around our area from the rain is tremendous. We get my neighbor sub pumps constantly. And now if you're putting a huge building that's taking up a massive amount of green space on that land, where's that water going to go? I don't care how much drainage you put in. That Rooster River is going to go crazy. My uncle lives on Melville Avenue and he gets affected by it. So, I mean, it doesn't go away. It's only getting worse. So I said HVAC Rooster. I talked about the cars because when you have an apartment building, it's single, you say it's a single unit for one person. most, if you have affordable housing, it's gonna probably be two people, that's two cars. I just don't understand where all these cars are gonna go, but on the street. That you're talking visitors. And we also have a handicapped child in the neighborhood. I don't know, it's just not, to me, it's not safe. There should be a little bit smaller way to do this, where it's not such an impact on the people, the cars, and the people who live there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Or you can put that seat over there if you want it.
My name is Ana Maria Goss. My house is the one that is next to the building in Council Hill Road. So I'm concerned about all the drainage. And also because I was in contact until recently about this building issue. So I don't know if this will affect me in the value of my house. It will go up or it will go down. Also, I figure because I lived there over 50 years, someone should have considered us as neighbors. And I just find out this, and I'm very, very upset about this because I'm, like I said, I've been there over 50 years and now this thing is coming and I really don't know where I'm gonna stand now.
Our other concern is, my name's Jose Goss, I am the
What's your
son,
name, sir?
He's my son.
I'm the son, okay, so I lived there most of my life.
Thank you.
Our concern is because of the grade of the driveway and so forth and the land. What's gonna happen to our driveway? We just had it redone a year ago. We're having a roof and windows done. What's gonna happen to our foundation? We get a lot of water down our driveway. Number one.
I even have a pump.
And then we're gonna have this sewer system around my mother's house. I think that's disrespectful. Number one. You know, I don't, you know, the person building this, I know him personally. Disrespect to my mother, me, and my family. I consider this a complete failure on his half.
Lack of communication.
Yes,
What's your address?
477, that's the house that's right there in the middle.
The empty space there, that's my house.
One you keep going back to.
Okay.
As far as the traffic, I don't know where he's getting his pattern. But that hill, nobody does 35. People do 60, 70 miles an hour. You gotta look both ways to get out of that driveway. I know that by experience. So I don't know where he's getting his 35, 40 miles an hour. No such thing on that hill.
Too many accidents on the red light.
You know, I don't know where they're getting these statistics and these things that they're saying. But it's a line of both to me. You gotta be fast to get out of there. There's no way apartment building next door is gonna be able to handle the flow of traffic out into that road.
Excuse me.
And the consideration of my mother trying to get out. And then you're taking more trees and land. There's gonna be such a flood zone down there. It's gonna be a catastrophe. But I leave it up to you guys to make the decision. And hope for the best. But
Thank you for
I can't.
listening.
Thank you for listening.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Gale and I live at 234 Soundview Avenue. I want to echo that there just seems to be just a real lack of respect for the neighborhood. Obviously Tungus Hill is a multi-use. There would be no issues if it did not impact Soundview so desperately, which it does. The person who is the builder seems to be from the area, so he should know that the end of Soundview used to end in a ravine. And that ravine, all of the water from Soundview used to go off the cliff into the ravine, and that was completely paved over when they built the Stop and Shop. And so all of the houses that are on Soundview now get all that water. The field that he's going to be building on, I used to walk my dog by it all the time, and it was constantly filled with water. So there is a real issue with drainage. It doesn't seem like anyone seems to know that that used to be the ravine. So that is the biggest, aside from completely impacting the character of the neighborhood and disrespecting all of the people that live there, who are mainly low-income people who've worked all their lives for their homes, that will now have the quality of their lives so desperately impacted by this. The disrespect for that is just really unpardonable. But the safety has to do with what the water flow is in the area, and to have it not be called wetlands makes no sense. It's not wetlands now because they paved over the ravine, but it is part of the drainage system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, Kat Mata, 123 Beaver Street. First question, is it possible for us to get the map of the street up on the screen, just so I can point some things out so it's more clear?
Ms. Harrigan, please. Thank you.
If you can include the one that has Beaver Street up to Sterling Street on there, that would be great.
I'm just gonna have to, just give me 1 second, I'm just gonna.
No
have to
worries.
go back.
Yep.
The aerial, yeah.
Okay, so this doesn't include Beaver Street. I mean, not much of Beaver Street, but and Sterling Street. So I have lived on 123 Beaver Street since 2004, when my husband Ray and I got married. He has lived on Beaver Street, number 123, since the 70s. He was a child who grew up in our house. His mother owns 79 Beaver Street, which you can just barely see, which is the second house in the house on the corner of Soundview, where it says Stop and Shop. There's a house on the corner, and the next house over is my mother-in-law's, which is 79. Then there's an empty lot, which is 87, which is my mother-in-law's. And then 123 is coming closer. 149 is our neighbors next door to us, Matt and Angel, who just finished construction and had to do a lot of water catchment, because we are backed up to Gypsy Springs. Everyone keeps saying there's no water issues, there's no wetlands, but we are backed up to Gypsy Springs. And when Stop and Shop did their whole renovation back 2004 or 5, in that time period, we never had water in our basement. And ever since then, the woods behind our house, which is actually owned by Stop and Shop, is a lake every single time it rains, whether it's a little bit of rain or a lot of rain. And it backs up into our basement, which we had to spend a lot of money to get water trenches dug, and the pipes to some pump it back out. There is definitely water that goes straight down Soundview, straight down Sterling, and lands into our properties at the end of Beaver Street before the cliff. There's woods, and then there's a cliff that goes into the Stop and Shop parking lot. So I just wanted to point out that there is water wetlands issues. So one of my issues here is, congratulations on a beautiful building rendition. It's gorgeous. From the Tungus Hill side, if it was just the Tungus Hill side, I would say beautiful. It's going to make Tungus Hill look gorgeous. It's beautiful. But we have Cape Cod cottages across the street that, like, what's their elevation? Like 30 feet maybe? They're very tiny houses. Like the second story is like an attic space. They're tiny. And to have this, I'm sorry to call it a monstrosity, from the Soundview side, it looks like a monstrosity. Now we have many families with children. We have a family that has autistic children. And we have a family who lives right at 66 Beaver Street on the corner of Soundview. You can see the house right there. Lucas, who we all love very much, who has many medical issues, and he's deaf. And we do have deaf child signs on Beaver Street, there are none on Soundview. And because of his hearing loss, he can't tell directionality at all. So for him to be on that house and their driveway's right there, they usually bring him down to in front of our house to ride his bike and play, because there's less traffic, even though cars come speeding down a street like 40 miles an hour, get up to our house, go, oh wait, it's a dead end. And then they quick make a U-turn and go back out. It's a problem. The children, like, even if they come down to our end of the street where it's a dead end, it's not safe for the children going up and down the street because there are no sidewalks on Beaver Street, Sterling Street, or Soundview. So there's no safe haven for children at play. And we have a ton of new children, babies, 6 and under, 7 and under, and they like to ride their bikes and their scooters and whatever it is, and it's adorable. But, you know, having potentially 92 extra vehicles. Because I know me, if I'm single, I'm having my boyfriend sleep over every night, so his car has to go somewhere. If it's a two-family, 1.5 cars for a two-unit space? Well, what are you gonna cut your car in half and park at Stop and Shop? That makes no sense to me. So I think we need to make sure that there's an equal number of spots for the potential of cars. Yes, people can take the bus. Yes, the bus is right there. But we live in Fairfield, we drive. And yes, they may be low income. And yes, it's good to have low income options. But to the expense of the street, as you can see it now, yeah, there's only a couple of cars there that you can see in this photo. But I go up and down these streets every single day because I live in the neighborhood. I walk in the neighborhood, and literally, as Cindy Elwood was saying, you go up and down the street, it's a 1-lane road because there's cars parked on this side and this side. And then when the UPS and the Amazon trucks come, literally they just stop, and you can't get around them because they just stop wherever they stop. There's nowhere now on those two streets to park. Next to Scap Motor on Beaver Street, there are parking signs that were put up by one of our neighbors, had the town put them in for no parking signs. They're ignored. People still park all along the bushes on the right-hand side of Beaver Street as you're going out towards Tungus Hill. It's always clogged up with cars going along Beaver Street from Belisara all the way down to the house that will be torn down. And that will be, instead of a 1-family house, is now apparently what I understand is going to be a 2-family duplex. So that's extra cars that we had to consider. And the stop sign that's on the corner of Sterling Street and Beaver Street, surprise, surprise, nobody ever stops at that stop sign. Ever. On Soundview, I'm sorry, Soundview and Beaver Street. Nobody ever stops at that stop sign. They go tearing around that corner at breakneck speeds. When they're coming down Beaver Street towards Sterling Street, nobody ever stops. There's many times you're almost at a head-on collision with the people coming down, because so many cars park on Sterling Street, coming down Sterling Street, coming from Beaver onto Sterling. The traffic for a tiny little 2-street, 3-street neighborhood, it's amazing how much traffic and the rate of speed that people go through because they're trying to cut away and not do the stoplights and stuff. My other question is for Marble Terrace. When you're coming out of Marble Terrace, the people coming out of Marble Terrace, if they're making a right-hand turn, it's pretty okay, but it's hard to see because there's always cars parked along the road and stuff along the road in front of the Jeep dealer. It's really hard. There's bushes and trees. It's hard to see. They can't make a left-hand turn because the traffic is crazy. So now you're going to have extra people coming out onto Tungus Hill Road directly across from Marble Terrace, which is already a nightmare for people to get in and out of. So that's one of my concerns. Let me go back to my notes. So yeah, not enough parking. The people will definitely park off street. Ray and I are fortunate enough to have like 114 feet of frontage where people could park. We don't want all these people parking in front of our house. Even though legally they can park there, I don't want it. We don't want it. It's just, I don't want to have to deal with trying to get around cars when I'm getting in and out of my driveway. It's already crowded enough on the other streets. And I covered the stop sign, covered the children with autism and deaf, Gypsy Springs. Okay, the EV sustainable building is a sustainable building and EV. Are there any plans for solar panels in this building to accommodate the EV? To accommodate, if you're gonna say you're sustainable or green, why don't you do like Stop and Shop did and put solar panels on your building on top? Especially if you're not gonna use the gas and it's gonna be all electric, like, why don't you offset it more? The setbacks, only 10 feet. That's the length of 2 of these tables. So the houses that are, as this woman over here said, it's right next to her house and the house next to it. That means from here to 2 of these tables, that's how close you're gonna be next to this, I'm sorry to say, monstrosity. It's too big. Are these gonna be rentals or owned condos? They're all rentals. And how many people are expected to live in each of these units? Will a mother who is a low-income mother with her 3 children be living in a 1-bedroom unit because that's all she can afford? Is she gonna, is that, I mean, are there gonna be a lot of families and children? And what kind of effect will this have on McKinley School for the elementary school? How many children extra, I mean, it could conceivably, there could be, you know, if each mom had 2 kids, an extra 92 kids going to McKinley School, if they're all children. That was just a thought of mine. And does this space have to be this big? I mean, is it just a money grab? Can we build sustainable low-income housing for 26 units? I mean, could we have a compromise where there's exactly 1 or 2 parking spots for each of the units? There's enough storage for each of the units. There's, you know, however it works, can we just scale it back a little bit? So from the Soundview side, it's more in keeping with our neighborhood. We all own houses. We all would like to be able to sell our houses at some point and have our property values go up. But our feeling collectively from all of my neighbors here is that our property levels are going to go down. So perhaps find a compromise of build something, make some affordable housing, but smaller and less units, not so that we have 96 cars on our streets. Because that's how I see it. I see 2 cars per household, whether it's 1 or 2 bedroom unit. And I see that it's going to be a lot more vehicles running. And I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Dan Carbine and I live at 824 Naps Highway. In looking at this slide, just the environmental impact of removing all of those trees, and those are all old growth trees, well over 100 years old, that have been there for a long time. To remove them is a travesty. The next thing, I think the traffic survey should be broadened and go way out, because I'm on Naps Highway. I've had 3 cars hit and directly in front of my house from speeding, traffic, not paying attention. Walking around the neighborhood is potentially dangerous at times. There's not sidewalks on all of the streets and the streets that go up and down. With the traffic parked on either side of the streets, all of our streets, there is not enough room for really anything. I drive a 4-door dually GMC and I can get up the street and down the street. But if there's one of my neighbors coming up the street, one of us is going to have to duck in somewhere to get by. And people that live in the neighborhood are considerate of the speed and pedestrians. But there's a lot of people that come through that side of Fairfield that are not considerate of parked cars, pedestrians, property of any kind. The other thing that I would like to be looked at is Mr. Randolph had mentioned earlier about the decimal level of air conditioner compressor units on top of a roof. I know my neighbor has one outside of his house and I can hear it running. You put 46 of them on top of a roof, and me at Naps Highway up the top of the hill, we are all going to hear that racket at the bottom. The noise from the top.
Go for it.
So, and as far as the design, I think the design of the building is inconsiderate to the neighborhood
Sorry, just
and to the area.
direct the comments to us, please. Okay.
Oh, well, I'm talking to a room. I'm used to
No,
talking to
that's
a
fine.
room.
Just to us or to them.
So the structure is far too large, A, for the neighborhood, and B, for the plots of land that it is going to sit on. Coverage of 69% of the building lot. Yeah, where's the water gonna go? You're creating a tremendous amount of surface area. And you can't just account for the bad storm every now and then. You have to account for your worst storm often.
Last, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
If I may, just give you guys a couple of pictures, if that's okay.
This, I think, is a closer rendering than what they showed as to the size of the building next door. That's about 30 feet, and that's a little.
Why don't we do this? Why don't you hold them up so you can describe it to all of
Oh,
us?
so this, I think, is a better rendering.
Yeah, why
Oh,
don't you?
yeah. I
No worries.
I can project. You got it, brother.
You want to just pass them up?
Yeah. I can
Let
do
him
it.
explain the pictures first and then he can.
Sure. So this one here, and I'll pass this down, I think is a better rendering of the size.
You can give your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Carlo, Soundview Avenue. Sorry.
No, thank you.
What's your address?
Carlo,
101 Soundview,
Carlo, what's your last name?
Ravecchio. A lot of vowels. Don't worry about spelling it. I think this is a better representation of the size of the building. It's not the actual building. I tried to find something as close as possible to the size next to the building next to it. And that's the largest building on the block, even given the grading. It's about 35 feet, and this will eclipse significantly the tallest building on the block. So I think that that was a consideration that had come up, and I just kind of want to let everybody see as well.
Just so you know, we're gonna put this as part of the record.
Yeah, that's,
Can I just
it's a
ask a question
printout. I don't
about
need
this?
it.
This is not the actual building.
No. It's that is the actual building that exists and will be there.
Next door?
Yes, and that is about
Which side?
35 feet on
Hill on
the,
Soundview?
up the hill on Soundview, correct.
And this is what you think.
A rendering of an apartment building in town that's about the same size. It is not perfect scale. I did have we were talking about traffic. I also have some images from the proposed entrance on Soundview. As you can see, it is limited visibility. You can't see the corner very well. And as has been mentioned, people whip around Beaver Street. They don't stop and you can't see anything. So that's looking out Soundview towards Beaver. And then this is looking out Soundview towards Old Stratfield Road. And then as well, I think this is very important. I know the traffic study was done in March for 3 days. This is a photo of Soundview Avenue facing towards Beaver Street from the proposed entrance. This was taken at 5:15 yesterday. If anybody can tell me how many children are playing, where the deaf child sign is, or where the corner is, I'd appreciate it because you can't see it. So I do think that that's very important in terms of safety.
There's a picture on the other side.
It's the same picture, double-sided print. You've already got
And
that
this
picture.
is Soundview.
Correct, Soundview
part of
Avenue.
what property?
In the proposed site,
Okay,
that's the,
uphill and south.
looking uphill, correct. So, I'll try and do this quickly, and I appreciate all your time. I would like to discuss my concerns with the development and why I think we as a community are not thrilled with allowing this to proceed. I do believe that this development will undoubtedly create a more dangerous environment for the community, for the families that currently live near it. Soundview Avenue is a cut through. I understand the traffic analysis, but people speed down it routinely. It is not necessarily the safest. And I understand that there were 0 accidents on the street over a 3-year period, but that does not take into consideration adding a parking lot, 60 cars and 90 people. So we have that. Drivers routinely speed through before slamming on the brakes near the intersection at Beaver Street, if they even come to a complete stop. Given the steep incline of the hill, the development will have minimal visibility on Soundview Avenue, leading to dangerous conditions for drivers, pedestrians. It will create jams on Tunx's Hill Road as people hold up traffic to make a left into the lot, as people hold up traffic trying to get in and out. And that will lead to more people cutting through Beaver Street, up Soundview Avenue aggressively, or cutting around people because they don't want to wait their turn because somebody's trying to make a left. I walk my children to school. As a member of the community, my children attend McKinley. I walk my children to school. And as a parent, my fear is that my child could be harmed on the walk. With limited visibility, with significantly greater density for that morning rush, accidents will happen. And this proposal will make multiple blocks more dangerous for children, not just Soundview Avenue, but Old Stratfield Road and Tunx's Hill Road. That intersection will become much more dangerous. 1 child harmed, I think, is too many, even if the developers don't mind, since it's not their kids.
No, sir.
That's true.
Thank you. So you got it. That's my last one.
No, take as long as you want, but I mean, that's.
I got you. So the building, as I said, it'll be about 50 feet. It will tower over any building in the neighborhood, and it'll be about 43% larger to quantify it than the house next door. This will not fit in. On the idea of affordable housing, this is not Section 8. These are not vouchers. This is not affordable housing. This is a 2-bedroom for $2,000 a month. They're using formulas based on median incomes, and they're incentivized to keep that minimum base as high as possible. We are talking about people that need help, and people do need a place to live. And we live in this community because we want to live in this community, and we want people to live there with us. But when we're talking about low-income people and saying they make $85,000 a year, I don't know how you can really square that circle. So I think that's a concern, that they're manipulating the system to get something, that the system is there to create something really positive, and that's not what this is. And additionally, the environmental impact, I think, will be devastating on the area. It is a hill, but the hill is known for having a very high water table. I know somebody had said, where does that water go? And the answer is, it's going to go in my basement, because I have had a flood in my basement from a storm. The previous owner had floods in the storm. So when you remove all this open space where water can drain, it has to go somewhere, and it's going to go into our homes. It's going to damage our foundations. It's going to cause significant issues, mold and safety and health. And it had also been brought up before, and I think it's really important to go back to the safety issue. There are multiple children with special needs just on the block, within 200 feet of the proposed exit on Soundview Avenue, and they deserve safety. A child with an ID child who is deaf, who you're cutting off half of his area, and he didn't do anything to deserve that. There are children right across the street that they have special needs, and they ride their bikes and they play, and you're going to cut that off because, as it's been said, people are going to go in, not see a spot, come out, and they're going to whip through it. They may not stop. It's hard to see. If it's 5 o'clock at night in December, you can't see across the street. So I think these are all issues. Yeah, and somebody had said, I believe you had said somebody said that the city was walkable, that the area was walkable. There's no sidewalk on Soundview Avenue. It's that they have to walk in the street. I know there's a lot of people have families, their kids walk to Ward, they walk to McKinley. You're walking in the middle of the street, and are you going to be adding 60 to 70 cars in that path? So those are my concerns. I'm just trying to look at my last couple of notes, and I apologize. Additionally, I know cost of living may or may not be a concern for the board, but if you're adding this many people, has anybody's power cost gone down? We're going to be adding a lot of demand. And additionally, it was also brought up, and I just want to make sure that everyone was here because they were told by the town. How many people who were actually sent a letter by the town and are here because of it? I think there's one person raised their hand. I'm one. That makes 2, and there's 3 that I know of. How many others were here because somebody else knocked on their door, so the town didn't do their job?
No way.
I would love to answer.
So you know a lot about the current traffic patterns of the neighborhood. So I had a question, and this will also be addressed to the applicant to deal with on rebuttal, but there's no assigned parking. So I'm a little confused about people can't, when they go down Soundview, they can't get to Black Rock Turnpike. I'm a little confused about that, but my question relates to something.
Sure.
Okay, so there's no assigned parking. 65% of the spaces come off of Tunks's Hill, and the rest are coming off of Soundview. They don't connect the 2 garages. So if somebody cannot find a space on going in Tunks's Hill, they will exit, go back on Tunks's Hill Road. Will they go south or north? Probably, I would think they would take a right and go south down Beaver and then circle around and go on.
I would imagine you'd make the right because the right is easier.
Work in with your traffic pattern that you're talking about. With Beaver seems to be a big problem here.
So how does that, I mean, any additional, and I'm not saying this out of anything else, but any additional traffic on Beaver would probably be a negative. It's small, it's dark. The house that's going to be demoed sits high, there's a retaining wall, so you can't see around Soundview. And you can see in the picture that I gave you, you can't see. So the sight lines, I know you were looking at from the proposed development towards the corner, but okay, but the expert's here, man.
The comments go to us. please.
Okay, well, he's looking at from the exit to the corner, but you can't see from the corner back, and that's how traffic will also be coming. So,
There's two 66s. There's 66 Soundview, which is on the corner of Beaver and Soundview next to this development, but that is a Soundview, that's the demo building.
yes,
Then there's a 66 Beaver, which is
Yes.
directly across from
Correct.
66.
With a deaf
Soundview. It's
child.
very confusing.
and
but-
that's the home with the deaf child.
Oh, that's the, okay. And now, when somebody was saying, people go down to the end of Beaver, which ends up at Gypsy Springs Open Space, then they don't know it's a dead end or something, so then they back up, and then somebody else said you can't, most people want to get to Black Rock Turnpike. They can't get there from Soundview, so they go different random roads.
Commissioner Braun, I could explain that better to you. When you come
Why-
down Soundview.
Ma'am, if you're
I'm
gonna.
trying to figure out if you're circling around the building, because you can't get in on Tungus
I know,
Hill.
but if-
It's
if
filled.
If you were circling around the
Going down
building,
Beaver, and then you're going up Soundview to go in that way.
you would probably not be going towards that Gypsy space unless you missed the turn.
Okay.
But you might have to circle once or two, but you probably would not be going down there.
People don't know that it's a dead end.
Yeah, it's dark. And there's a white fence, but if you miss the turn, you're gonna go there, then you have to turn around, and it's tight, but it's possible. Did that answer your question?
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, Mike Roger Moscator, 111 Soundview.
Grab that microphone. just so we don't-
Can you say your last name?
Yeah, I've lived there for 36 years. And when I first saw this, I couldn't believe it. I said, it couldn't possibly be putting a building. When I heard it was a apartment building, I thought, okay, so, I didn't like that either, but there's a lot of duplexes in the area, which are fine. But when I heard it's 46 units, I couldn't believe it. And I listened to all this analysis, and this is great analysis, like 300 pages on the website. I went through a lot of it. I'm saying people are trying to rationalize this, and it's like they're missing the forest for the trees. It's like the elephant in the room. I mean, this house doesn't belong there. It's an apartment building in the middle of a residential neighborhood. We have small capes and small yards. People have a lot invested in this area. And all of a sudden, it's going to be a low-income housing, which I have nothing against that, but there's just too much of it. There's probably 90 people in that building. And I don't think there's 90 people in the 3-block area around us. So I was shocked about this, and I can't believe that anybody would vote for it. I just can't see how it could be approved. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Matthew Benjamin. I live at 217 Sterling Street. Our son is a volunteer fireman. And I'm not sure if those that did this study are aware you can't put out an EV fire. And an EV fire is 1,500 degrees, and it stays at 1,500 degrees. Even with a blanket, you're not putting it out. It has to go out by itself. And I've seen EV fires. They don't go out. You might not see the fire, but that fire is there, and it continues and continues, and it can continue 24, even longer hours. That in itself is a danger. Where those EVs are put is a danger. A firefighter has to go into the building, if it's an EV fire, to attempt to basically just put water on it to attempt to contain it from going to other vehicles. You're putting at risk anybody and everybody, along with the vehicles that are in that garage. 1,500 degrees. You know, an engine is what, 500, 600, 700 degrees. This is twice that. Okay, the parking. And I don't know where you come up with, you, like it was stated before. 1.5. You can't gauge that and expect that to be followed. When you have visitors that are coming over, they're gonna find available parking, whether it's marked for somebody or not, they're gonna be using it. And that's gonna force other people on the streets, whether they're the residents or they're visitors. It's gonna be an impact. The architecture is wonderful. If you're not living in the area. Okay, I'm up at 217 on Sterling Street. I more than likely will be seeing that from my house because it's just too damn big. There's a lot of issues that were not covered, not by the commission, but by those that were speaking here today. And it's a maybe, and it's a I might, and well, I'll take it under, no. Okay, you're supposed to be coming here with answers. And you're not giving, you guys, you're not getting the answers that you've asked. So to even think about approving this goes against anything that anyone on this board should even consider. Because it's just wrong. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ann Fellner. I live on Chapman Avenue, 127, at the top of where all of this commotion is starting. Is there any way that you can put up on the screen the picture of the neighborhood where Tungus Hill is at the top of the screen, Beaver is to your right, and Stratfield Road is to your left?
Is this one?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so.
Use the microphone.
Oh. Yeah, I'm the neighbor that's always yelling Angus because the dog gets loose. For the people who are living on Beaver Street, I can understand their point of view. Nice building, by the way, just want to say, but it's way too big. I lived in the neighborhood for almost 40 years, raised my kids there. I also work for the Fairfield Public School System, so I'm aware of how many kids walk up from your neighborhood, including the deaf children that are riding in the neighborhood. Putting a building this large capacity, when you're going forward, with so many people moving in there, you're not going to tell me that there's not going to have family with children moving into that neighborhood. As it stands currently right now, what I've observed driving up from the laundromat to my own house, people come flying down Beaver Street and going back up Sterling because they're trying to beat the light that's right there by the liquor store at the top of Tungus Hill Road and Old Stratfield. When they can't get, they catch that, they go up or they continue across, if they can see that far, up Sterling, across Elizabeth, up Division, and we're loaded with kids. To the point where the neighbor whose house mirrors mine on Division Street, I'm in their backyard. They've gone to the point where they're putting up cones in the middle of the street because of the way that the traffic is flowing from Black Rock Turnpike through that area and trying to beat the light, or coming off of Beaver Street, coming up Sterling and trying to beat the light. And it all ends up turning into a gnat's at the top of those streets. And the children are not, you're not seeing them, because I myself, when I'm driving, sometimes I don't see those children. We've put out signs. I don't know what or how thorough they did at traffic or exactly when or the months that they do, but it's even far more busier during the summer because all the kids are home. A lot of the kids are in the neighborhood. They're trying to get to McKinley. They're coming down from there. And I don't know if you're aware, but Holy Family Church has now opened a charter school. So now, has anybody done a school bus? You know, how many more kids? Because the children who are going to be going to a charter school, they're going to be taking school buses from Bridgeport, the other side of Fairfield, and potentially coming to that school. So now you have even more kids, more school buses. Your dumpsters, there's no way they're going to see a deaf child or a kid on a bike when you're coming down there with a garbage truck almost every day to empty that. So if you're going to put something that large there, please make it smaller. I understand that Tungus Hill is part of 58, so that's the state. If you were to go up there now and try to take a wheelchair, although they did the corners beautifully, you go 5 feet into those brand new concrete and you're in a wheelchair, you're not on a sidewalk. You can't find the sidewalks. Because anything past Balsera up to that part of Chapman Avenue is not being taken care of by the state of Connecticut. And on the opposite side of the road, there are no sidewalks. So if you're on the other side and you're going from Marlboro and you have to come around, you have to come across the street to use a sidewalk. So it only makes it more dangerous for more children that you have. And I've worked for the school system for 36 years. Our numbers do go down. I will admit it. But if you're going to put that many houses into that area, you need to do a study on how much larger it's going to grow. Because Fairfield is going to grow. From COVID until now, over 9 houses in our neighborhood has taken on new families, taken on younger families with younger children. They don't stop at one kid. Just want to let everybody know the birth rate is going up in that area. And you're opening a charter school. On Black Rock Turnpike, I leave at 5:30 in the morning. There used to be no cars. Trying to get out from Sterling and down to Black Rock Turnpike is a nightmare because you have to keep the right, cutting down Adelaide, cutting down Sprint Street to get to a traffic light to try to cross the street. We need a traffic light on that part of Black Rock Turnpike that's coming out from that part of Old Stratfield Road because kids are going to get hit. So if you could please even take it down to maybe 20 apartments. And how many of those are handicapped accessible?
Whoa.
You know?
Sorry, not you.
Oh, I'm sorry. How many of those are handicap accessible? Are they built conducive to what handicap standards are? Because I've never known one person with a wheelchair that doesn't have or need a handicap vehicle. Is that vehicle parking space going to be wide enough for more than one family to live in that house? Because not all people are deaf. There's other people who are in that neighborhood. One of them's name is David King, that's down the bottom of Tungus Hill. He cannot take his wheelchair up Tungus Hill because there are no sidewalks wide enough for him to take that wheelchair. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I really hope that people will vote no to this whole thing because Gypsy Springs are always going to be there. I don't care what you do. They're going to flood everybody. Regardless of how well you try to construct it, the water's going to go someplace and it's not going to go in somebody's basement. It's going to take the houses at some point. So please reconsider this.
Be asking questions of public comment.
It understands the traffic patterns that I'm trying to understand better.
If you want to meet me later with it, I'm more than happy to meet with you.
You've asked that the last time.
Well, he was saying people's speed. I'm trying to avoid a light. I was trying to figure out what light. I couldn't understand what light.
There's a traffic light that's on Tungus Hill and the top of Stratfield. On
How are
Old
they
Stratfield
avoiding
Road.
that by going down Beaver? Where are they going from?
They go, come off Tungus Hill, onto Beaver, make that right, fly up the top of the hill.
Where are they, right on Soundview? You're saying?
Yep, go up
Sterling.
Soundview, hit Sterling, and go across up to the top of Naps Highway to beat those lights that are there on that
I
thing.
understand. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening.
How you doing? My name's Frank Aquino. I live on 74 Sterling Street. I live on 74 Sterling Street. So I agree with all my neighbors. We had very good points with traffic, water issues, safety concerns. But one thing that kind of confuses me is we're taking the developers, all his studies, and it seems like we're putting a lot of emphasis on those studies. I mean, being that I'm a builder myself, if a developer's paying for studies, I feel that they're all gonna be in the developer's favor. I mean, how do we know whether those are accurate or not? You know, you, as the board, I feel should be protecting us as the residents and looking into what we have to say and doing your own investigation and not just taking the word of the developer. You know, we do pay taxes in this town. And I think we deserve, you know, and as far as some of the points that being a builder, I don't agree with the drainage report completely. I don't agree with the traffic. Living in the neighborhood, I know people speed up and down those streets. I mean, Tungus Hill's ridiculous. When I come out of Sterling Street, there's a stop sign on May Street and Old Stratfield. And by the time I look left and right, they're on top of me. I can't even get out of the street. And they come out through that stop sign one at a time. You know, so there's a lot of things to be considered there. I think there needs to be a big compromise. And I don't agree with having a 50-foot building on Soundview with all those small homes in that area. I moved to a town. I lived in Bridgeport years ago, and I moved to Fairfield to be in a town. And now it's becoming a city. And I don't think it's fair to the residents that you could just take and plop an apartment building with 46 units and say, hey, you gotta like it or get out. It's just not fair. And I know all these neighbors, like myself, I worked hard. Get up 5 o'clock in the morning, work 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, worked on weekends, worked on holidays to live where I am. And then the value of my property has to go down. And not even the value, just the population in the neighborhood. We used to be a nice little quaint little area. Now it's getting ridiculous. It's getting overpopulated. The snow plow in the winter don't come down our street sometimes because if the people on either side of the street park in the street, the plow can't even get down the street and plow. And we're on a hill. Sometimes I can't get out of my driveway. I have a 4-wheel drive, but my wife drives a 2-wheel drive car. You know, it's just not right. And that's, you know, that's basically all I have to say. And, you know, God bless my neighbors for coming here and putting up with their rights, you know.
I'll just say it's 9:15. Our commission has a curfew at 10 o'clock. Doesn't mean this doesn't mean it's the one and only night that we'll be hearing this. If anything spills over, we'll go into another night, but it is 45 minutes.
If you guys can keep the chatter in the rest of the room quiet, the green tiles in the ceiling are speakers. And so sometimes, even though you're speaking quietly amongst yourself, it drowns out everything else that's being recorded. Thank you so much.
I just want to put out there that we have our curfew at 10. If we don't finish with public comment, we will go to the next time. If we don't finish with the rebuttal, we will go next time, but we want to say it with 5 minutes left, so. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Susan Schwartz. I live at 128 Sterling Street. I would just like to ask, who did actually put the flyer through our mailboxes and come to the doors?
I'm sorry?
Did you actually do the mailing for
Some
everybody?
very handsome person did, but I don't know who.
Oh, was it you?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Don't thank me.
But we actually did look for a lovely neighborhood, and that whole triangle between Tungus and Black Rock Turnpike was an area that we picked to live. And I find that this building is really compromising the neighborhood. Like somebody said before, the whole area on Tungus, it would improve. The area, that whole sidewalk up Tungus Hill is impossible to walk up. You can't walk, you do have to look where you're walking, otherwise you're going to trip and break your neck. You can't walk on it. The whole area, like everybody has said previously, if you're walking in that area, it's impossible to walk. You have to dodge in between cars. And if you are a walker in the summer and you want to get out and walk, like everybody does in the summer. It's a great area to walk. It's a real neighborhood area. You're walking up the hills and down the hills. You're seeing your neighbors. The children are out playing. That's why you move to this neighborhood. And the biggest issue here is the fact that there's going to be a huge overflow of cars in the neighborhood from this building. And where are they going to go? And they're going to go into the street. They're going to come out screaming around the corners, and they're going to go up and down and parking all over the side of the streets. And you're not going to know where anybody is going to be on the side of the streets. And the children aren't going to be able to play where they normally play. And I have no idea how this even got as far as it did without any of the neighbors really knowing what was going on before this point and before the flyers got put in our mailboxes. Because I certainly didn't know about it before this point, and I don't think many other people knew about it either before all the renderings and everything else happened.
Why is that?
I mean, have no idea. And the point at Tunkstus Hill and the end of Old Stratfield, that whole corner is impossible to get in and out. And you do have to go up and down the streets to get out safely in the mornings when there's traffic. It's impossible. It's absolutely treacherous. And the amount of accidents that are at CVS and that gas station and at the end of Old Stratfield, every single day there are accidents there. And I'd love to see the reports on the traffic accidents and the incidents that are there, because that whole corner is an absolute nightmare. There are accidents there practically every single week. So that's I mean, the police reports have to be pulled up to see that. They have to be available. So that's it.
Any member of the public in person would be heard. I'm gonna turn to remote. It's not your last chance, not last call for in person, but just want to give in person preference. Ms. Harrigan, anybody online?
Yeah, so we have 3 people in the chat who have requested to speak. First, we have James Capola. Second, we have Kim Barron. And third, we have Rajesh Subedi.
Okay, the first one was again?
James Capola.
Capola, excuse me.
Hi there.
Capola?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, this is James Capola, resident in Fairfield for 18 years, currently at 185 Soundview Avenue for the past 11 years. It was definitely a shock to hear that this was coming in or proposed to come in. I agree with my fellow neighbors. We didn't receive any information up front from the town. So again, thanks again for whoever dropped the flyer at our house to become aware of this project. I share all of the same concerns as my neighbors. This initially 69 unit massive structure, now 46 unit with 55 parking spaces. That is completely abnormal for the size of our neighborhood. I don't even think we have 46 homes on the entire Soundview Avenue in its entirety. So this is just completely out of place. Most of our homes, I personally live in a cape on a tenth of an acre. This is just, again, not in line with the type of layout we have in this residential neighborhood. As it is, cars are parked up and down the street on both sides of the road. You know, we're a neighborhood, we're a community, we're good sports. When people have events, barbecues, things to that effect, we all understand that and we make room for each other. This is not in line with the capacity we have on Soundview Avenue. As it is, the road is narrow. As Cindy and others have said, you effectively have to pull over to let cars pass through, depending on who's getting to that spot first, given the amount of parking on the street that's taking place right now. I just cannot wrap my head around where you would functionally store, call it 55 to 100 cars with spillover on the street with this unit. We don't have sidewalks on Soundview Avenue, as was previously articulated by someone in the room. I can attest Soundview Ave is absolutely a cut-through street. There's speeding issues up and down. As it is right now, I have 3 young children. I do not let them play in our front yard. They must play in the backyard for safety reasons. Um, Throwing in this 46 unit structure is just a massive concern of mine for safety reasons with my children. My kids will eventually drive. They'll have cars of their own. I just don't see the capacity to put this into such a tiny residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Mr. Barron?
Kim Barrett?
Yeah, Ms. Barron, excuse me.
Hi, thank you all for being here today and for allowing me the chance to speak. My name is Emma Barron. Sorry, I'm on my mom's Zoom account. I am 24. I live at 845 Naps Highway. And I just had a couple points. I think everybody has brought up really great aspects about this that I think are definitely reasonable. But just something I think also mentioning in terms of the socioeconomic impact that this has the potential to have. So as I said, I'm 24. I went to McKinley kindergarten through 5th grade. My brother and sister did as well, and my parents have lived in our house for like 30 or something years, a very long time. And throughout that time, they have seen for 30 plus years the town and the town's conflict with redistricting. I think that at the basis of this, there's sort of an age-old tale that we learn as we look back at history, where projects like affordable housing, like prisons, they are things that people do not want in their own backyard. Not to compare those two as likely, but I think it's something that we see time and time again is that there are great ideas to help the equality among people in towns, in states. However, when it boils down to it, people don't want it in their own backyard, but it's obviously got to go somewhere. I think off of that, we can all agree the idea of affordable housing is a wonderful idea. It's needed. It's needed in Fairfield and elsewhere. But it's just sort of along those same lines where I would say the same socioeconomic group or groups are repeatedly put in a cycle where they are kept where they are. So affordable housing units or structures or buildings get put in sort of the same types of neighborhoods over and over again. With the redistricting that the school has gone through from kindergarten to 12th grade, I had 2 full redistrictings happen when I was in school, which I'll just say is a lot. And I know that conversations besides that went on for years. And a main point of these conversations has always been the inequality in Fairfield regarding socioeconomic status, race, religion, other things like that. And sort of the root of that is that there is so much diversity in, I'll just call it the McKinley district, and that tends to lack in the rest of Fairfield. I think that spreading the wealth of the amazing diversity that exists in the McKinley community is a beautiful idea. I think going to McKinley and Ward gave me really wonderful experiences and education to, start off as I would live in the rest of the world, which is with a complete diverse mix of people. And so I think the sentiment is great. However, it goes back to the same issue of people don't want it in their own yards. I think most recently, a couple months ago, we sort of saw what was caused when people thought that redistricting came up again, and the thought was that Jennings would possibly close because of the redistricting and trying to spread the inequality in regards to diversity across Fairfield. And obviously, in addition to that, people choose to live in the McKinley district for that piece and for that diversity. And so it's also not something that we want to have to compromise as it is our own community. And then I also just wanted to mention, someone else had spoke and had referred to this as a money grab. I just have to completely agree. I actually have an uncle that is trying to do the same sort of development plan in a neighboring Fairfield County town. Obviously have my own thoughts about that. I would say most certainly his motivation has been get rich relatively quick. I know that the process is not that quick, but that is his motivation. And I spoke to him this past Thanksgiving about the process. And I think some things that I took away from that were important to at least mention. So the first being, a developer tends to build such a shocking number of units because they have to reach the break-even point. Obviously, you want to reach the break-even point so that you then get to start to make money, which is, I would say, the main point in a lot of this. That break-even point typically doesn't happen until 15 to 25 units. And this is then why you tend to see plans like this have double or triple the amount of units. And then in addition to that, by law, for this to be labeled as affordable housing, all units have to begin with the same finishes. What my uncle is doing, and the developer I know, is that units that will not be specified as affordable, but rather, on the regular market, will be offered with additional packages or upgrades to purchase so that, essentially people who have the money can afford to live in a more luxurious apartment. I think it just goes back to the idea that it just adds to the divide in town and in keeping a certain socioeconomic status in the place that it has been. And just that the motivation behind all of this really seems to be rooted in money and greed, and certainly not the benefit of the community that it's being placed in. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have Rajesh Shubedi.
Yeah, hi, this is Rajesh. I've been living in this neighborhood for the last 15 years. And I was in the nearby neighborhood, like the other side of Tuxas Hill, for 3 or 4 more years before that. So I'd like to start off by saying, we choose the neighborhood that we live in with meticulous details, right? For example, we chose to live in our house for our kids because there are other kids in the neighborhood the same age and things like that, right? And with the diversity of the area, so it is things like that that we pick reasons to live in, right? And then also, I think one of the things that has not been addressed by many speakers today is the financial side of it, right? Personal finance, for example, you expect to buy a house, live in it for a few years or many years, and then when you sell it, you expect to make some money out of it. And by projects like this will diminish the value of the houses in the entire neighborhood, and which is the wealth that the possibility of wealth creation by selling your house just vanishes. It's your life, the lifelong wealth that you lose. And we expect the town to actually think about the situations like that in our benefit, because we pay the taxes, right? So that's my major concern, is we are totally ignoring the financial side of things here, and probably Just thinking of sentiments. That's all.
Mr. Savetti, what was your address, please?
112 Soundview.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll make an announcement. Anybody joining us remotely or by phone wish to be heard in this application? If you're on phone, you may be muted. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. Any member of the public in person or remote or by phone that wish to be heard in this application?
I'd just like to say one more thing, if possible.
If it can be
brief, and I'll be.
So long as
Sure, I can.
Yeah, I just don't want to.
No, you got it. I just wanted, it's actually something that Mr. Sarabi had just said that I think is important. It was part of the application. In the application, there was a study about home values.
Say your name again.
Oh, I'm Carlo, 101 Soundview. There was a study about home values that was part of the application. And somebody had said, you know, we are only taking studies from one side. The study was done by Trulia, which is has a vested interest in home values, of course. But I also, while I can't say that the study has no veracity, I would say I don't believe it's particularly applicable anymore. Because what was submitted was a study that was done 16 years ago using data from 26 years ago. Yeah, so I believe they looked at studies, they looked at home pricing for a very specific definition of housing developments from, I believe it was 98 to 2008. And if those of you don't recall anything interesting happening in the housing market just before 2008, we had this wonderful bubble. And when you cut off your data right before the bubble bursts, everything looks great. If you submitted this in a data class, you would fail by saying that this is now. So while I do understand the point he was making, I do think that part of the application, I think, is not applicable and I think should be regarded as such. It was nice that they found it, that they submitted it, but I don't think it's appropriate.
Thank you. Okay, just want to make sure. Any member of the public wish to be heard in this application?
I have one more remotely.
There we go.
Brandon Gerdauskis.
Hey, good evening. Can you all hear me?
You can, yeah. If you can just give your name and address.
This is Brandon Gerdauskis, 157 Sterling Street. And I would just like to state that I had no idea about this plan until a nice man knocked on my door on Saturday afternoon and told me about it and told me to attend this meeting. I do not agree with this project because that is a terrible place to put this. Now, if you were to propose it at a site as the scab or Gengris, whatever property you're calling it, that is going to be vacant in another year or so, I'd be all for it. But why would you put it there? That doesn't make any sense at all. And I'm done. That's all I had to say.
I have Sherry. I don't have a last name.
Sherry?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, can you please pull up the picture with all the streets where you could see that sort of like L-shaped cutout of what it's gonna look like? Yes, okay.
Oh, Sherry, if you can just give your name and address, please.
Sherry Norridge, 101 Soundview Avenue. I live across the street from this.
Thank you.
Okay. I just want you to notice, look at the L. You see the L, the projected site?
Yes.
I want you to notice the percentage of green that is there right now versus the percentage of gray. Do you see all the green?
Yes.
I want you to note that all of that green pretty much will disappear, and that is where all of the water is being absorbed right now. that is coming down the hill, all that runoff down the hill from the top of the hill. We're at the bottom of the hill. All the water is being absorbed there. Where does that water go? I want you to think about that. That is it. That is all that I have to say.
Ms. Harrigan, anyone else you say?
Garage will be an underwater garage.
Any member of the public wish to be heard in this application? Any further?
I just had one more quick comment. That guy over here, Ray Mata, 123 Beaver Street, did a quick math earlier on when they were speaking.
State your name again.
Oh, my name is Kat Mata, 123 Beaver Street. And my husband Ray, who's math guy, did a quick computation of numbers earlier when they were saying how many units and how much each unit was going to be. And one of the gentlemen who called in said, you know, what is the point of this and why can't we move it to where Gangres, where the Jeep dealer is? This is somebody who currently owns the property and he would like to rip down his own house and another house that was left to him to build this monstrosity. And the grand total, if he makes rent on every single one of these units, will be $3,246.24 per year.
What?
$3,246.24. That's why he's doing this. He's taken his own property, which he's lived into this neighborhood for a very long time, and he's decided that he wants to make a couple dollars. And we think that if he wants to make affordable housing, that's great, but then let's scale it down. Put a couple duplexes on like every other house is done in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Last call, any member of the public who hasn't spoken, wish to be heard on this application. And if you're joining us by phone, please press *6. Hearing no one else, I'll close the public comment portion of this application, of this hearing, excuse me. Attorney Holzer. Rebuttal, I assume.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've been taking a lot of notes. There are a lot of things we can respond to, probably certainly more than we can do in the next 15, 20 minutes. Some things that would require maybe some additional details on the plans, such as planting and screening and things, assigned parking spaces and so forth. Frankly, we've heard a lot of things that I would respectfully say are misinformed, but we'll deal with those when we come back. My recollection is that you can get to your next hearing in January without any extension from us, which I believe is the 14th of January.
Correct, but the decision deadline would be the 16th of January. without
Right,
extension.
and as you and I discussed, Mr. Nguyen, if the commission needs additional time after January 14th to deliberate and decide, we're most likely going to give it to you. We're not going to cut off the process without that.
Well, that's gonna
important.
be, yeah, I mean, that would be, I would request that and even kind of more certainty if possible.
Yes.
Because I can't have the 14th and whatever reason come up and say we have to do it on, we have to have a decision by the 16th. So you
Okay.
can
Yeah,
answer
and
that, that would be helpful.
your next meeting would be the 28th after that?
Correct.
All right, then why don't I commit on the record now? Tonight we'll give you an extension.
No,
to
and
the-
I'm not doubting that you probably would at the time. I just, a little more
Yeah.
commitment and certainty for our end because we were just very busy with other applications that are
Understood.
coming down the
Okay,
pipe.
all right, well, I'll work with Mr. Wendt on that.
You can, I'll get that commitment from you. I appreciate it. Let me ask you this. We're gonna come back. Want to do what you can for another 15 minutes and then we're gonna, it sounds like there's things that you're gonna be presenting to us after the request, which is fair and fine. Problem I have is if you're gonna be submitting a new landscaping plan and potentially a lighting plan, that tells me that I'm gonna need to, what's the word? I'll say reopen, that's not the right word, but have to have public comment on those portions. I can't have you presenting completely new material. That's, so I want to be clear about this and timing wise.
And today is the 3rd. Why don't we commit, the applicant commit that we will, anything we want to.
Can't hear you,
present-
sir.
All right, thank you.
Today's the 3rd. We'll commit on the record that we will, anything we wish to present when we come back in January, we will have on file, I'll say the Monday, the 23rd. So you'll have it 3 weeks ahead of time.
But anything that's new though,
I understand.
yeah, like landscaping especially jumps to mind and, hold on one second. You can ask for it. Give me a second though. Anything new like landscaping or lighting, I'm gonna have to open it up to public comment on those items only.
I understand.
Yeah, just kind of like how a trial works, I guess. So my thought would be this, why don't you go as far as you can for 15 minutes on just general rebuttal? Regular usual rebuttal, and we'll adjourn at 10. The understanding, the 14th, we're coming back, we can tell that to the public now. I mean, okay,
It's
gonna be subject to.
unless we add a date to the calendar,
Yeah, which we've been doing, so who knows?
That's, yes.
That's gonna be the plan.
Next regularly scheduled meeting.
Yeah, that's the next regularly scheduled meeting. That'll be the plan. There may be a chance it changes, but we'll be posting that on our website, but we can, do that for now. Does that sound like a plan, Attorney Hollister?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I had a quick question.
Sure.
Alexis Harrison, sorry, I am remote. I would like to insist that the applicant does file a planting, landscaping plan. I've been on this commission for 3 years. I've heard numerous 830G applicants over the years, and I have never not seen a landscaping plan. And I think this is incomplete if we don't have one. So I would insist that we have one before we vote. Thank you.
Sounds like that's gonna be done.
Oh, yes, that will be done.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that we didn't see one tonight. You guys have had this application for a
Okay,
while now.
Commissioner, in our defense, I think we, we provided renderings which shows plantings. I think that was maybe not an adequate circuit, but that's what we did. So we will buff that up and make sure that you have the details that you want.
Great, look forward to it. Thank you.
Here's a question.
Commissioner Randolph may have just an additional request from information.
Attorney Hollister, a lot has been discussed, and this is one of my personal issues, on pedestrian safety.
Yes.
And this is children walk to school from here. There's some special need kids in here in this neighborhood. I'd request that you, as part of your traffic study, and the state is now taking a broader interpretation of traffic as being pedestrian movement, that you add a study on walker safety to McKinley School specifically, which is the local elementary school. It's something, sorry, I didn't raise that issue earlier because that is one of my topics, and it was clearly stated as a concern.
I would like to suggest that we commission our own traffic report. Talk about what we need to know, which is the actual current site conditions, including pedestrians, children, people walking to the store, as well as cars parked. I think that would be integral to our understanding. It was not done by the applicant. They don't have to do it, but I think I would like to have that information.
Well, we don't have a mechanism for that, and we've discussed having potentially doing that as a regulation amendment after we do our POCD. But we don't have a mechanism to obtain our own traffic engineers.
Taxes. I don't think we need a regulation to do that.
No, you can have a right to know.
What's our taxes for?
I thought we were told that we couldn't do that.
It's in the statutes, I thought.
Regulation, I believe, yes. Mr. White, am I?
That's correct. We can establish a regulation that would establish a mechanism for third-party review fees, but that would have to be regulation.
We cannot seek third-party review right now without putting a regulation, passing, accepting a regulation to allow it.
Correct.
No, that's news. Okay.
Well, we've discussed that several times, so it's not.
Can we get that information from our engineering department?
Our engineering department does review the traffic.
I don't know.
I think they have put something in there. That could be something we asked them. That has been reviewed, I believe, especially sightlines especially.
Yes, let me say, we did submit our traffic review several weeks ago to the town. My understanding is that it was reviewed. But Commissioner Braun, if there's anything you want us specifically to address, please give me a list, an email through Mr. Wendt, and we'll get it done.
Thank you.
Excuse me, a traffic study in the middle of the
Ma'am, I'm
winter
sorry,
is
I-
not
Sir,
conducive.
ma'am,
It's
ma'am.
too cold. No one's coming
I'm
along.
sorry, I mean, public comments over at this point, and right now it's applicant's turn. Let's go, we have 10 minutes. Why don't we just take advantage of it during our workload?
Well, let me first turn to my team. Is there anybody who has something that they want to
Or do
address
you think
on the
10
record?
minutes? I tell you, what might be helpful, even if it's just 5 minutes, is, well, I'll leave it to you. If you think if you're at the point with 10 minutes, it's not worth starting, we can just adjourn tonight.
That is my preference. And the reason I say that is just if we can
that's
organize,
a fair
organize the topics and there's some data that we've been asked to get,
No, that's
you'll
fine.
get it
I'll
in
leave it
much
to
more
you.
comprehensible.
Trying to get as much as we can done would be helpful, but I leave that to you. If that's your preference.
You'll get it quicker and better if we
More
organize it.
Organized maybe as well. Okay. I think we have I stated this game plan forward. Mr. Wayne, am I missing anything? I will leave this, I will adjourn the hearing tonight. I will adjourn the meeting. The hearing remains open as we discussed. Congratulations. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.